Yes. And it is it's special, the relationship between the Buddha and Rahula, obviously, because Rahula was the Buddha's son. He only had one child, as far as we know, and that was Rahula. And Rahula became a monk. And I'll just give you a little bit of background story about Rahula before we start looking at the contents of the sutta. Because it's kind of cute, yeah? Or maybe cute is the wrong word, but sweet or whatever it is, to know how these things happen. And after the Buddha's awakening, first of all, he went to Benares to the 5 monks and he taught them the Dhamma. They all became arahants, and then he kind of gradually established the Sangha in this way. And Buddhism was spreading around, around the Ganges plain especially. At the beginning, it was a kind of very geographically limited where he went. He didn't go very far, but over time, of course, he went further. And the Buddha was the kind of person, he would always teach the people, he was grateful to them, first of all. Yeah, he asked, who in the world helped me? And the first people he thought of was these 2 teachers, 𝑀𝑎ℎ𝑎𝑟𝑎ℎ𝑢𝑙𝑙𝑎𝑤𝑠ℎ Unfortunately, unfortunately, they were dead. Yeah, so he said, okay, dead. They had been reborn in some kind of long-lived deities, so he could help them anymore. Yeah? So make sure you get the Dhamma before you die. That's the thing. Life is kind of short, things happen very quickly, and so you have to take the opportunity while we have it. And then one of the next things that he must have thought about, presumably, was his family, because they obviously also were very helpful, especially his near family, but maybe also the broader clan as well. And so not so long after his awakening, he went back to 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑐𝑡. 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑐𝑡 became a main city of the Sakyans. And those of you who came to India recently, you know what it's like. 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑐𝑡 today doesn't have quite the same atmosphere anymore, I think, that it had at the time of Buddha. But anyway, you get some nice stupas and some ruins and things over there. 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑐𝑡, there's 2 𝐵𝑢𝑑𝑑𝑐𝑡s in India, you know that? There's one in India and one in Nepal. And so the question is, which one is the real one? That's the question that arises. And I think the one in India is likely to be more real. They found some seals. The seals are like little medallions. And they have the inscription, 𝐶𝑎𝑝 on them. So they kind of, as far as I'm concerned, that sealed the case. Sorry, I'm being naughty. I mean, Ajahn Brahmali. So the Buddha went there, and he then gave, obviously, Dhamma talks to his family, and he stayed in the Nigodha. Nigodha is a banyan tree monastery or banyan tree park. And one day, his family came. And when the family came, then the mother of Rahula, who later on she was known as Yashodhara. In the suttas, you don't find the name Yashodhara, you just find Rahula Mata, which means Rahula's mother. But presumably, maybe that's what she was called. It's a bit uncertain, but maybe that's what she was called. And then when she came to the Buddha, she said to Rahula, go to your father and get your inheritance. So she was probably thinking, okay, now this is an opportunity to get rich. Rich family, and I now have the chance to kind of to get what is rightfully, and that's true, it's kind of rightfully theirs. It should go from generation to generation, and if you become a monk, okay, well then it goes to the rest of your family, so fair enough. But of course the Buddha, he knew that the real inheritance is not the material inheritance. You may know the sutta called the Dhamma Sutta, the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. Dhamma means like the Dhamma inheritance. That is the real inheritance. So if you want to be someone who inherits from the Buddha, well, that is what actually matters. And so the inheritance of worldly things is kind of small. It's not that relevant. It's nice, but it's not kind of super duper important. It's going to sustain you until you die at the most, and then you're on your own again. But the Dhamma inheritance is far more significant, obviously. And so then the Buddha, when the Rahula comes up to the Buddha, this little boy, you can imagine this little boy, he senses something strange going on there. He comes up to the Buddha, And he says, "Oh, your shade is delightful, Venerable Sir," or something like that. "No, your shade is nice." It's almost as if he's saying, "I'd like to hang out with you." Yeah? It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure exactly what it means, because it's one of those Indian things. Maybe it had a particular meaning at that time, but very often they would sit in the shade of buildings because the sun was very hot in India. So maybe there was something about shade. So your shade is delightful, samana, ascetic, he calls the Buddha. And then the Buddha says to Venerable Sariputta, he says, "Ordained boy." Yeah? Imagine the mother, I'm not sure if she was kind of get your inheritance, ordained the boy. Wait, that's not what I meant. Too late, right? He asked the Sariputta, "Okay, sorry, the deal is done. You have to ask for inheritance, you've got to know what you're asking for." And so then the Sariputta ordains him. But then he asked the Buddha, "Well, how am I supposed to ordain him? He's only a boy, he can't become a monk. You have to be 20 years old to be a monk." And then the Buddha lays down the rules for ordaining a novice. And the rule for ordaining a novice, you know what that is? You know what that is? Okay, so first of all, the age, right? How old do you have to be to become a novice? You know that one? Yeah, okay. You know everything, you know what I mean. You should be sitting up here. You're very knowledgeable and understood that. Congratulations. That's very nice. I approve of that, so that's great. So the age you have to be old enough to scare away the crows. Yeah? Isn't that kind of nice? Yeah, it's not very definitive. You just have to be old enough to basically, you have to be able to, to kind of act, I suppose, reasonably mature, scaring away the crows, not being afraid of nature or something like that. Because in an agricultural society, the crows would often be problematic. They would eat the food or whatever, so you have to be able to scare them away. And then Venerable Sariputta ordains him. So he is actually a disciple of Venerable Sariputta, Rahula. Not a direct disciple of the Buddha, because discipleship depends on who ordains you. Who is your upajjhaya? That's kind of who is your teacher. And so Venerable Sariputta is his teacher. And when we look at the sutta in a second, you will see Venerable Sariputta also is there. But of course, the Buddha, is everyone's teacher ultimately, but more directly responsible is Venerable Sariputta. So he becomes a monk. And of course, the good news is that later on, the mother also becomes a nun. And both Rahula and his mother, Yashoda, become arahants according to the story. And in fact, there are suttas, there's one particular sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya where the Buddha teaches Rahula for the purpose of becoming an arahant. And he becomes an arahant. That's kind of nice, isn't it? That he gained his inheritance. That's the full inheritance has now been transferred. Actually, not really transferred, because in real life, you transfer, you lose it, and your son gets it, or your children get it. But here it's more like both have it, which is kind of nice. So that is the story of Rahula. There's a number of suttas spoken by the Buddha to Rahula. There's one just before this one called the Maharahulovada Sutta, the discourse to Rahula Maharahulovada, this place in India, south of the Ganges River, between Rajagaha and Patna. It's called Ambalattika. That's kind of where that sutta was given there. So, So if you haven't been to India yet, maybe there will be a chance in the future. We'll see. Chances often arise. So it was very nice to be with the BF in India about a year ago. And so these are opportunities to hang out with the Buddha staying there 2,500 years ago. So this is a little bit by way of background. So now let us move on to the actual sutta itself and what the sutta has to say. So the longer advice to Rahula. Rahula is still a name used in India today. We met Rahul Gandhi, famous Rahula in India today. So it's still used. So, alright, so here we go. So I have heard, this is a Mantasubhata translation. At one time the Buddha was staying in Savatthi in 𝐺𝒊𝒕𝒂𝒂, another Pindika's monastery. This is a very standard opening of the suttas. most suttas happened here, because the Buddha stayed there for a long time. Then the Buddha rode up in the morning, and taking his bowl and robe, he entered Savatthi for alms. Yeah? So this already to me is really interesting. Yeah? You may see this and you may feel, oh yeah, okay, whatever happened. And you know, because it doesn't sound all that exciting, but imagine the Buddha walking for alms. Yeah? This already puts the Buddha in a certain light. Yeah, he's a monk. He goes for alms. People in the city, they put food in his bowl. It's the Buddha. Imagine if the Buddha came to you and he said, you know, well, alms around, you feel a bit nervous, right? But here he was just a monk like everyone else. And this tells you something about who the Buddha was. It was nothing kind of extraordinary. I mean, it was extraordinary in one way, but not in the way we sometimes think of the Buddha. He was one of the monks. He walked for alms by himself. Sometimes he clears up his own lodging, puts things in order. He washes his own feet. He has conversations with all kinds of random people. People are rude to him. And 𝑴𝒆𝒅𝒊𝒕𒂃 in the suttas. And so the Buddha is like a person. And really important, I think, to know that, because then we can have a relationship with the Buddha as a teacher. If he is a God, it's much more difficult. If he is a person, you can. This is kind of what makes the Buddha a person. So he takes his own bowl and robe, and then he enters Savatthi for alms. And Venerable Rahula also rode up and followed behind the Buddha. So you would often have like an attendant monk going with you, a second monk who would maybe carry your bowl back, or do little services or whatever. It was kind of very common at that time. It's called the Pacha Samana in Pali. Samana is like an ascetic or a monk. Pacha means behind. So the monk who goes behind it, right? That's actually literally the name of that sort of monk. Then the Buddha looked back at Rahula and said, Rahula, you should truly see any kind of form at all, past, future, and present, internal or external, solid or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all form with right understanding. This is not mine, I am not this, this is not myself. So, sometimes you go on alms around and you get a really profound teaching. This is kind of the benefit of being with a teacher, I suppose. But still, it's unusual. Usually you don't get teachings when you go on alms around. So there must be a reason why the Buddha turns to Rahula in this way. And according to the commentary, the reason is because he was conceited. He was a young man. According to the story, he was only 18 years old at this particular point. And he was conceited. He thought that he's, I look like my father, very good looking. It's not the way you should ideally think as a monk, because obviously that creates attachments. Once you think like that, then you're kind of heading in the wrong direction, and this is how you end up becoming a layperson if you think like that. And so the Buddha reminds him, all form here, rupam, all form, sabbam rupam, all form means, form is appearance as well. The word form is kind of a bit hard to sometimes maybe get a full handle on, but appearance is very easy to understand. So all appearance, what you look like, all of that is non-self. Got nothing to do with you. It's not about you. You can't control it. You're not in charge of it. It arises because of cause and conditions, and then it's gone. And yet, when you look in the mirror, you think, that's me. Right? Well, that is the mistake. It is not really you. And so this is what this is about, is the remembering, the reminder that actually it's just something that is impermanent, that moves on, is always changing. In your past life, you probably looked very different, and you thought, that's me in the mirror. And now you could be horrified to think that's you, right? Well, it's got nothing to do with me. Who's that stranger? So it changes. And so the idea here is to let go of this idea of appearance. And you will notice here how he phrases this: past, future, and present. In last year or in the future. Last year, I was kind of 5 years ago. Wow, now I'm getting a bit old, so I'm falling apart. But 5 years, that was the real me. Now it's kind of 80% me. It was 100% some time ago, whatever. Sometimes we hold on to the past. In the past everything was so nice. Oh, I wish I was in the past again. And you think about the past and hold on to the past. In the future, I'm going to get things sorted out. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to make sure that the form is appropriate. So I'm going to think about myself. I'm not saying you should not go to the gym. Please go to the gym. Please be healthy, but don't overdo it. Because this form is not going to be reliable anyway. So no need to overdo this kind of thing. Solid or subtle, the idea here is that you may become a deva. Is anyone here who's planning to become a deva in the next life? You got that as a kind of your backup plan or something? Yeah. It's a good idea, be a deva. There's nothing wrong with being a deva. Why not? Much better to be a deva than to be a human being. You get a body which doesn't have so much pain, and you get the food is much nicer in the heavenly realm. It's pretty good in Singapore, even better in heaven. And so the body has all of these varieties, and so even those deva bodies that are really nice and light and bright and beautiful, whatever, they too are problematic. There isn't anywhere, even the most wonderful body, in the end of the day, is going to be impermanent and non-self, and then you're going to have to come back to whatever. And sometimes you get bodies that are terrible bodies, like animal bodies. I don't know. When you live like I do, living in nature, you're very close to the animals. When you come to Perth, have you seen the kangaroos in Perth when you go there? It's a kangaroo, right? So very cute. Actually, not so cute. When you know what they are actually like, they're often very aggressive, they fight with each other, very greedy. The mother will push away her child. In the beginning, she's okay, but after the child reaches a certain age, she will just push the child away. I will take this food, thank you very much. That's kind of how the mother is. It's a really harsh reality, and really, really rough. The kangaroos have fur. Imagine when it's 40 degrees in Perth and you have fur. They are really suffering. They are licking the limbs to cool down, these kind of things. So this is what happens after you're on a deva. You come back as a kangaroo. It's true, right? It's a problem. This is basically how it is. And so you understand that all of this is not self, always changing. Solid or subtle, right? Internal or external. Internal means relating to yourself. External form is other form. Inferior or superior. Similar kinds of ideas. Solid and subtle. Far or near. There isn't like anything outside of you either that you can take to be yourself. All form, everywhere. There is no escape. And there isn't anywhere, any corner of samsaric existence where you can hang out and you can be happy. All sambang rupang is the part here. All of that is not self. All of that is out of control. All of that will arise and pass away. All of that is forever outside of your grasp to control as you would like to control it. That is what the Buddha is telling Rahula. So what does Rahula say? Okay, well, you will find out in a second, unless you have found out already. He says the following: only form, only appearance, blessed one, only form, holding one. So blessed one is Bhagavan, so that's kind of the standard translation in English of Bhagavan. It also be translated as Lord. Lord is actually quite a nice translation because it is used in a similar way as Lord is used in English. In terms of God, Lord is used for gods. Holy one is Sugato. Sugato is one who has achieved a good destination. Su is good, Gata is like gone, so one who has gone to a good destination. Holy one. Okay, maybe. And then the Buddha replies, for Rahula, as well as just feeling and perception and choices and consciousness. Yeah? So in other words, all the five aggregates, not just form. So I guess Rahula is wondering why is the Buddha kind of picking out form? That's why he's asking this question. So the reason is because Rahula is somehow conceited and delighting in form. And so now he probably gets the point. So everything that has to do with your person, these are the five aspects of personality in which we normally find or we hold on to a sense of self within these five aggregates. So these are the pancha, khandha, skandha, if you like. Yeah. So all of these things. But form is the most preliminary one. Form is in many ways the most important one. Because if you can deal with form, then you can go a long way in meditation. Form is the one thing that tends to block you from going deeper in meditation. That attachment, that holding on there. And so this is a large part of what this sutta is about, learning how to deal with form. Alright. Then Rahula thought, who would go to the village from us today after being advised directly by the Buddha? Advised here probably means something like admonished, right? Being admonished directly by the Buddha. And so he has like a sense of shame, yeah? He feels, wow, okay, now after this is kind of, I don't know, this is really something very beautiful about this, yeah? You feel that the Buddha is admonished, you take it so seriously, you don't even go for alms anymore, and instead you go to meditate on what the Buddha has been asked about you. This is like high degree of sincerity in the practice. Turning back, he sat down cross-legged at the root of a certain tree, setting his body straight and establishing mindfulness in front of him or in his presence. And so this kind of expression means that he is now going to meditate in one way or another. This is what setting the body straight and establishing mindfulness really is about. And usually it is a reference to mindfulness of breathing, but it can also be a reference to other kinds of meditation as well. Yeah, so he turns back and sits down at the root of a tree, foregoes today's food, yeah, so doesn't don't have to eat every day, and then meditates instead. Venerable Sariputta saw him sitting there and addressed him. Rahula developed mindfulness of breathing. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it is very fruitful and beneficial. Yeah, so we have, as I said before, Venerable Sariputta was his teacher, his Upajjhaya, who ordained him, and so it is natural for him to address him, yeah, to give some advice. So he tells him, develop mindfulness of breathing. Venerable Sariputta himself had developed this meditation subject profoundly, and obviously he became one of the really great monks, and so it's natural for him to advise Venerable Rahula in that way. And interestingly, this mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, is very fruitful and beneficial. It doesn't say that about many other meditation subjects. Mindfulness of breathing really stands out in this way. Yeah? This seems to be the number one kind of meditation object in the suttas, because it is talked about this very high way. Yeah? It is very fruitful and beneficial. It fulfills the four satipatthānas. Yeah? You become an arahant by developing mindfulness of breathing. You attain all the jhanas and all of these kind of things. That's kind of nice, yeah? Because mindfulness of breathing is so down to earth. It's so grounding. You're just aware of the natural feelings and the natural elements that are already in there. Nothing highfalutin. You don't have to kind of fantasize and imagine all kind of fancy things. This is one of the things about the Dhamma, the early Dhamma of the Buddha, that you find in the early Buddhist texts. It's a very grounding, very natural way of living here. I'm always afraid of things that are too fancy, yeah? Kind of takes you on this spin. You're not really sure whether you are half crazy or half sane because you're imagining so many things. We already have too much spinning around on the mind. We need to ground ourselves more. You need to get away from this unreality. This really brings you back to reality. This is one of the things I love about the way the Buddha talks about things. And of course, the deeper you go in meditation, the more grounding it becomes, because the greater is your clarity, the greater is your calm, the greater is all of these things that make you feel more real rather than less real. Your mind is under control. It's not all over the place thinking about the past and the future and fantasizing and all these kind of things. It's present, aware, powerful, mindful of the breath. So breath meditation is very important. But, there's always a but, right? If there wasn't any but, we would stop here. So there is a but. What is that but? Then, in the late afternoon, Rahula came out of retreat, went to the Buddha, sat down to the one side, and said to him. So I should let you know, I forgot to say one thing at the beginning, that is that there is a parallel to the sutta also in Middle Chinese translation, in the 𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒂, which is the parallel to the 𝐼𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂, the variable discourses. And there the sequence is a little bit different, but never mind, we don't need to get into that now. But the basic ideas are the same. We've developed in the breath meditation and also the elements, I think, are in there as well. So, he goes to the Buddha, and this is what he says to the Buddha. Sir, how is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated to be very fruitful and beneficial? So he has meditated all day, he has tried to follow Venerable Sariputta's advice, and I was wondering, well, maybe did I do the right thing or did I not? So how is it cultivated and developed? And now comes an interesting point in this particular sutta. The Buddha doesn't actually answer the question directly. He goes via a number of other meditation subjects before he comes back to the idea of mindfulness of breathing. And that's kind of fascinating. Why does he do that? And so we'll talk about that in a second, why he does that. But first of all, let's see what the Buddha replies. Rahula, the interior earth element is anything internal, personal, that's hard, solid, and appropriated. Seems like, what do they call that? A non sequitur? It doesn't connect together. So it seems very kind of abrupt, right? It's like something, almost like something is missing there. And so maybe this was a little bit different originally. This is what you find out when you compare the sutta, that there are slight differences. But the point is, whether originally it was a bit different or whatever, the point is that the foundation very often of mindfulness of breathing and all meditation is to loosen the hold of the body on the mind to some extent. This is why when you read the 𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 Sutta, you have the 31 parts of the body contemplation. You know the 31 parts of the body? Not 32 parts, right? 31, is that right? I always like to make this point when I say these things. Anyway, we can talk about that later on, it's not so important. Maybe it is. 31 or 32 parts. Okay, let's see it to one side. We'll get back to that later on. So those, if you're curious about this, you can ask about this later on. If it's really boring and interesting, you don't have to ask. And then you also have the 4 elements. Also in the 𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 Sutta, under body contemplation. And then you also have other things like cemetery contemplations, you have the 4 postures, you have sati sampajanya, and then you have the mindfulness of breathing. 6 kinds of exercises, or 6 kinds of meditations you find in the 𝐴𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 Sutta. And the most important ones are the 31 parts of the body and the 4 elements. They are the most important ones. Why? Because they are found across all the various schools of Buddhism. They are everywhere. So these are kind of the most fundamental ones. Mindfulness of breathing is also very important because it says it fulfills 𝑠𝑎𝑡ipatthana. That is the final one. So why do we have all of these 31 parts of the body, 4 elements, all of these contemplations of the body? Again, it's because one of the things that stops you from going deep into the meditation is because of holding on to the body. Yeah, you want the body to be there. You're holding, grasping it. You can't really let it go properly. And if your mind starts to go too deeply, your mind doesn't want to go any further. It kind of stops. And you wonder, why doesn't it go any further? And the reason is very simple. The reason is because you're holding on to something. First of all, you're not getting enough joy. That's one reason. And that joy is then gained by living well and all of these kind of things. And the other reason is because you're holding on to the body. And so if you want the meditation to be deep and profound, you do a little bit of body contemplation. And this particular contemplation of the 4 elements is very easy. It's very straightforward, something everyone can do. The 31 parts of the body may be too much for some people, but this one is kind of more neutral, more balanced, and it leads to more of a neutral feeling or neutral idea of the body. So the Buddha, and this is why I think this is structured in this particular way. So the Buddha then says to Rahula, the interior earth element, interior means pertaining to oneself, to this one's own body, that's what it means, interior. Is anything interior that is solid and appropriate. Appropriate means you take it to be mine, This is me, this is my body. Keep your hands off my body, This is kind of the idea here. So it's appropriated. Mahitam or something like that. What does this include? So this kind of gives you a kind of suitable list. Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, mesentery, undigested food, feces, or anything else, internal, personal, that's hard, solid, and appropriated. This is called the interior earth element. So anything solid in the body, this is the interior earth element. All of these things. And that list, of course, is really up to you. You can lengthen that list, you can shorten. That's why I was saying before that 31 parts or 32 parts, not so important. Then you can make it 30 parts, you can make it 50 parts, you can make it 45 and a half parts. You can really you can play around with this as you like. This is not kind of fine or anything like that. It's just to give you this feeling for what the body is like. And if you don't really know what the body looks like, you can get one of those anatomy books and you can look it up. Or you can go to the �W𝐞𝐝𝐢𝐻𝑒𝑚 body worlds, and you can see what the body looks like when you strip off the skin, and then you can see all of these bits and pieces right there. This is the interior earth element. The interior earth element and the exterior earth element are just the earth element. This is where it's interesting. The interior earth element and the exterior is the same. It's here and it's here. There's a table, that can't be the same. But actually, it is, right? Where does a table come from? A table grows out of the earth. All the elements get taken up from the earth, and it becomes wood, because it takes up those elements, and it expands and grows. It uses the oxygen, it uses the water, it uses the earth element, whatever is there. This body, what is it made of? The crops grow, and you kind of get those crops kind of organized in a certain way, and it becomes food, you eat it, and voila, we have this body there. That's how the body is. So it's the same thing. It comes from the same thing. It all comes from the earth, ultimately. This is like earth element. How interesting can it be? Just earth. It comes out of the ground. Just rice and porridge. We're actually not in Norway. It's potatoes and porridge, rice and porridge. Singapore, rice and porridge. Norway, potatoes and porridge. That's the only difference. But whether you are potato and porridge or rice and porridge, amounts to the same thing. Just rice and porridge. It changes everything. You come literally out of the ground. The crops grow and you kind of emerge out of this, and then you become something. And all it is just the elements of the earth. then you live for a while as you are living. You are changing all the time. They say that almost all your atoms, every 7 years, it's all gone, and it kind of you start. There's a few things back that last for a lifetime, like brain cells or whatever, but most of it kind of just goes. It's changed all the time. 7 years ago, your body was completely different. Isn't that strange? There's nothing left. I was just looking this up on the internet before I attended, because it's kind of fascinating when we have to talk about these things. And it said that 300 billion cells are exchanged every single day. There's about 30 trillion of them. So 1% of your cells are changed out every single day. Every day. So who are you? What is this thing anyway? It's always changing, always moving around. You breathe something, you breathe out, part of you comes out, you eat something, some stays in, other things come out again. It's kind of this, you're part of nature, always interchanging with everything around you. How seriously can we take this body? Not very seriously, really. Yeah, it arises out of the earth, eventually exchanging with the material around us, and then when you die, everything goes back to earth again. And then another person takes up some of your elements. What? That means that I'm full of elements from previous people as well. That's what it means, right? That's what it means. Maybe my grandma, well, actually, no, she was still alive, but maybe now she's kind of. So all of these people, maybe millions of people, are somehow part of this body. Who are you? What is this body? After a while, you start to realize actually you can't. This is just really very different from what you thought. This idea of identifying this as the real you makes less and less sense the more you understand what is going on. Very changeable, very impermanent, made up of all of these things. Interior earth element and exterior earth element are just the earth element. And so, and you may think, it's kind of fascinating when we say this, it's kind of obvious. Yeah, we can all relate to that, it makes really good sense. It is not hard to understand, but for it really to sink in, it takes a bit of thinking. And the more you reflect on it, the more you allow it to sink in, the more real it starts to become, because your habits are so strong in identifying with the body as mine. That to overcome that habit, you have to reflect on these things again and again and again. And after a while, okay, the body is no longer as interesting. It's very different from what we thought it was. And so then, what happens is that you truly see it with right understanding like this. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. This is not mine, this means it doesn't belong to me, it's not my ownership. I am not this means you don't directly identify with it. And that's kind of obvious that we cannot actually, I am not the body is more obvious. And this is not myself means you don't take this as a permanent, lasting entity. And when you see this with right understanding, you grow disillusion with the earth element, detaching the mind from the earth element. Disillusion, nibbidati. It means that you kind of reject it. Disillusioned, okay, it's not like you reject it, not interested anymore, you give it up. And then that disinterest happens finally because you detach. Detaching means 𝑉𝑖𝑟ājati. 𝑉𝑖Rājati is like no desire anymore for that earth element. And that is the idea here. Yeah? So you start to see your body very differently. You still have it. You still look after it in the right way, but you don't really take it seriously in the way you did before. And what that means is that then when you meditate on the breath or whatever, that body is not going to get in the way anymore. Because you don't need to feel, I have to feel the body is there. I need to kind of make sure everything is okay or whatever. I need to look after it. That doesn't happen anymore. You're happy to give it up completely. And because you are able and willing to let it go completely, you can go into states of samadhi where the body is gone.
Yeah, the body, you don't need to hold on to the body anymore. When the body is completely gone, you're fine with that because you realize it's not yours in the first place. And in fact, when you do enter samadhi, one of the things that you understand from entering samadhi is precisely that the body is not you. Yeah, you have overcome holding on to the body almost entirely when you come to deep samadhi like the jhanas and these kind of things. That is one of the benefits. After that, you don't really need to contemplate the body so much anymore because you have already experienced the result, the benefit of letting go of the body. So should you do 4-element contemplation? Well, you asked for this sutta, so now you yeah, so should you do it? Maybe, yeah. It is up to you. You do what you like. Would I recommend it? If you enjoy just mindfulness of breathing and metta meditation, I think these are the most important things. But if you are really, really serious about Buddhist practice, you may want to do a little bit of element meditation because it will deepen your practice of the breath meditation. Yeah, it will allow your metta meditation to become more powerful. So this is what. So this, I think, is the connection here between these things. But of course, what happens when you start to disidentify with the physical form and your appearance is that you have to identify with something else instead. Because you cannot just let go of the body and not have any other kind of identity. Until you are enlightened, you need some kind of identity, something to hold on to. And so very useful meditation to do in combination with the 4 elements is metta meditation. Because if you have metta, you identify more with the mind. Yeah, this mind, wow, you start to build up a beautiful inner world, and that inner world becomes what you identify with. So the two together is very powerful. When you identify more with the inner world, it is easier to give up the body. Yeah, and you have that stability of an inner sense of identity instead of having it with the physical world around you. And this is why I think that further on in this sutta, the Buddha does mention the Brahma Viharas. Yeah, it comes up later on, and that becomes then a counterbalance to giving up the body. So you do metta, and then you do the 4 elements. And all of this together then matures in the breath meditation, becoming very profound and very meaningful, taking you all the way to awakening eventually. That's kind of the idea here. All right, so let's go on a little bit more. So Eiling, you said I could go a little bit extra, so I'm going to take you up on that. Is that okay? Yeah? You are. I'm going to kind of carry 5 minutes more? Yeah, thank you. Eiling is the boss, so I have to do what Eiling says. It's nice to have a boss. I don't have to think for myself. You just go, yes, yes, ma'am, I'll do this. Okay, yeah. It's kind of handy. All right, so let's go for the next one. What is the water element? The water element may be interior or exterior. Yeah, again, this kind of mutuality. What is the interior water element? Anything internal, personal, that is watery, and appropriated. This includes bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, grease, saliva, snot, synovial fluid. Synovial is the fluid in your joints, apparently. I had to look that up, but that's apparently what it is. Yeah, urine or anything else that is internal, personal, that's watery, and appropriated. This is called the internal water element. So anything fluid, basically. Not just water, but anything fluid. The internal water element and the external water element are just the water element. Just like the previous one, yeah, there is no distinction. You drink water, it becomes part of you. Some of it comes out again, and you through your sweat or whatever, and then this continuous exchange between the interior and exterior, just like the solid water element, where you begin and the world begins. Where you end and the world begins is kind of very fluid. It is not at all clear where those boundaries are, even if there is a proper boundary. We like to think that the body is bounded, that there is a clear boundary, but actually there isn't. There is this kind of continuous exchange between the two. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine, I am not this, this is not myself. When you truly see with the right understanding, you grow fed up with the water element, disinterested. Yeah, you kind of reject it. And because of that, you detach the mind from the water element. More parts of the body you kind of are detached from. What is the fire element? The fire element may be interior or exterior. What is the interior fire element? Anything internal, personal, that's fire, fiery and appropriated. Yeah? You identify with the heat in your body. Yeah, this, you have the right kind of heat. You're too hot, you're just nice, just feeling good. So we identify with that as well. I think that's fair to say. This includes that which warms, that which ages, that which heats you up when feverish, that which properly digests food and drink, or anything else internal, personal, that's fire, fiery, and appropriated. This is called the interior fire element. The interior fire element and the external fire element are just the fire element. This should be truly seen with the right understanding like this. This is not mine, I am not this. This is not myself. When you truly see it with the right understanding, you give up on that fire element. You detach the mind from the fire element. Yeah, we get heated up by the environment. We give heat back to the environment sometimes. There is a continuous exchange of heat. When you die, the heat just dissipates and disappears. Yeah, there is no real, you cannot really identify with this. The most important identity here is the first one with form, yeah, with the earth element. And these other ones are secondary, but you can see that they also can be useful. But the most important one is the first one. And what is the air element? The air element may be interior or exterior. What is the interior air element? Anything internal, personal, that's air, airy, and appropriated. This includes winds that go up and down, winds in the belly and the bowels, winds that flow through the limbs, in-breaths and out-breaths, or anything else, internal, personal, that's air, airy, and appropriated. This is called the interior air element. The interior air element and the external air element are just the air element. This should be truly seen with right understanding like this. This is not mine, I am not this, this is not myself. When you truly see it with the right understanding, you grow fed up with the air element. Go away, air, had enough of you. Detaching the mind from the air element. That's kind of easy, yeah? Not so attached to the air element usually. So that's an easy one. Or maybe sometimes a little bit attached, yeah? The breath, maybe. Attached to the breath a little bit, maybe that's a good thing. And then a quick look at the last one, the space element. Usually there's only 4 elements, but here they add the 5th one, which is the space element. And the space element is usually that which is there when you remove the other 4. What remains is the space element. The space element may be interior or exterior. What is the interior space element? Anything internal, personal, that's space, spacious and appropriated. This includes the ear canals, the nostrils and the mouth, the space for swallowing what is eaten and drunk, the space where it stays, the stomach, the space for excreting it from the nether regions and anything else internal, personal, that's space, spacious, and appropriated. This is called the internal space element. The interior space element and the exterior space element are just the space element. This should be truly understood with the right understanding like this. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. When you truly see it with the right understanding, you grow disillusioned with the space element, detaching the mind from the space element. So there you are. I just wanted to finish that part of the sutta because otherwise we wouldn't be able to leave at 5 o'clock this afternoon. So just to kind of move forward a little bit. So this gives an idea of form, the material world, and how you can gradually let go of that. Of all of these, the first one is the most important one, the form, the earth element. That's the one that really matters the most, because that's the one we identify with the most. So focus on that one. That's what I recommend, and the other ones here are much less important. In fact, the space element here is usually not found. Usually they talk about contemplating the 4 elements. Occasionally the suttas talk about 6 elements. They add space and they add consciousness. And the reason for that is sometimes overcoming the 4 elements can take you all the way to the immaterial realm, right? There is still some very refined aspect of rupa in the jhanas. That's why they're called rupa jhanas. But it's so refined, you don't really know what it is until you get to the immaterial elements, immaterial spheres. And then to go beyond the immaterial spheres, that's when you have to contemplate space. Because that's the infinite space. And then to go beyond the second immaterial sphere, consciousness, you contemplate consciousness element. So in this way, you include almost everything in existence, and you contemplate everything in this way, going beyond basically all of the khandhas, all of the aspects of a person. That's what's happening here. So normally not found, and what is interesting about this space thing here is that you can see it has a kind of strange little sequence there, the spaciousness, and according to Bhante Sujato, who has commented on this, I haven't actually looked it up myself, that some of this terminology seems to be taken from the Abhidhamma. So this is maybe a sign that this particular element here has been added later on, and it wasn't there originally, because the language is a bit unusual for the suttas. Anyway, that is all for now. So please have a nice lunch, and we meet again at 1:30. Is that right, Eiling?
Yes, they are doing self-practice now until lunch at 12.
Okay, so self-practice until lunch, and then we'll see you at 1:30 again. Okay. All right. So let us continue. So we have just been looking at how to do the element contemplation, and which is a bit specialized, but hopefully it is also a bit interesting. It's quite simple kind of contemplation. It's something that everyone can do. It doesn't have to be a formal meditation or anything like that. It's something that you can do at any time. You can do it while walking, like walking meditation. And it's more like a contemplation exercise to get the mind used to the idea that the physical body is just similar to the rest of the environment. And after a while, it becomes like second nature almost. You start to look at the body in that way. So again, these are just suggestions. Doesn't mean you have to do any of these things. You may have your preferred way of practicing, but these are possibilities. So the Buddha gives like a range of possibilities, and then it's for us to choose what is the most suitable. So, in part, knowing your temperament and these kind of things. So let's move on. So then the next thing the Buddha says here, he says to his son, he says, Rahula, meditate like the earth. Kind of interesting, meditate like the earth. I wonder what the Pali is actually. Meditate. Let's have a look, because that's why I have two computers, I can check the Pali over here. So, meditate like the earth is aposamang bhavanang bhavehi. Yeah, so bhavanang usually is like meditation, or it means development quite literally. So develop like earth, or meditate. Yes, I think meditate is okay in that context. So that's good. So I approve of Bhante Sudato's translation. I'm sure he will be very pleased to hear that. No, okay. So, and then he says, for when you meditate like the earth, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose they were to toss both clean and unclean things on the earth, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The earth isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like the earth. For when you meditate like the earth, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Yeah, so the idea here is that your mind, the earth is like broad, the earth is large. The earth is not concerned about what you do to it. It's only a small part of the earth that gets affected. If you dump some rubbish or whatever on the earth, it's not really affected by it because of the development or the kind of the broadness of your mind. And there is a nice passage from one of the suttas. This is from the Kakachupama Sutta, the Simile of the Soul Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 21, which is one of the best suttas on metta. Yeah, the Simile of the Soul, exactly. It's all about metta practice, that particular sutta. And it's about this maid. I don't know if you have that kind of maid here in Singapore. There's a maid who tests her mistress. Yeah, I'm going to test now. Let's find out how much metta my mistress really has. Yeah, and she does a few things that are a little bit naughty, not a little bit naughty. And then after a while, the mistress gets really upset with her, and she knocks her over the head with a what is it, rolling pin or something like that. And that's a bad idea, right? It's not nice. And so that obviously, she has not developed her mind like the earth. Yeah, her mind is very kind of narrow and small, and so you want to have a broad mind. So this is what it says in that sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 21. It says, that suppose a person was to come along carrying a spade and a basket and say, I shall make this great earth to be without earth. What do you reckon? You take a spade and a basket and you're kind of digging a bit here. So you dig. They dig all over, scatter all over, spit all over, urinate all over, saying, be without earth, be without earth. I don't know about you, but I find that really funny. And someone is very optimistic about how to get rid of the earth. What do you think, mendicants? Could that person make this great earth be without earth? No, sir. Why is that? Because this great earth is deep and limitless. It is not easy to make it be without earth. That person will eventually get weary and frustrated. Yeah, in the same way, that when you develop, and it goes on about how to develop your mind, you develop your mind in metta, and when your mind becomes broad and large like that, it doesn't matter whether other people say bad things to you or do bad things to you. You never get angry. Yeah, you never get, so it's the same thing you find here. Pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Yeah, you never get upset by it. Unpleasant and pleasant contacts is basically when people say bad things to you, or they do bad things to you, or they do good things for you, for that matter. Yeah, it doesn't really touch you anymore because your mind is so broad that your mind is kind of beyond these things. It's interesting that it's not just about unpleasant contacts, but also pleasant contacts. And this is one of those things that people maybe not recognize or realize, is that if you develop the Brahma Viharas, metta, compassion, you have a deeper sense of satisfaction, a deeper sense of happiness, that the ordinary happinesses of the world are not so important anymore. Yeah, they don't really matter. Okay, so you get a nice meal. That's wonderful. It's great to get a nice meal, but actually it doesn't occupy your mind. You don't think about food in the afternoon. Oh, I wish I had some more nice food. And I can't eat. I'm a monk. Oh no, I forgot about that. I can't eat now. Actually, after 30 years, you don't forget it. You know. But it doesn't occupy your mind because your mind has been developed so broadly. If you want to overcome the 5 hindrances, one of the great ways of doing that is to develop the Brahma Viharas. 5 hindrances. If the first one is sensual desires or desire for the object of the 5 sense world, if you have a more profound happiness like the Brahma Viharas, they don't really matter anymore. So you overcome even sensual desire, at least partly, by Brahma Viharas. Ill will, obviously, if you have metta, is the exact opposite of ill will. Tiredness and lethargy. Well, if you have a really bright mind, because you're developing metta, how can you get tired? You don't get tired anymore. You have this incredible brightness within. Restlessness and remorse, you don't have any remorse because you have metta. Metta is the anti-remorse. You feel really good about yourself. You know that you are pure. You know that you are well. If you want to have a lot of self-esteem, self-value, feeling good about yourself, metta is great. You just feel good about yourself when you have these qualities. You don't have any restlessness because you are completely satisfied with the metta. And also you don't really have any doubt because you know that this is a good state. You know that this is a good quality. You don't doubt what is good and what is bad, etc. So you have a really large mind, a mind like the earth, and you're no longer horrified or repelled by all of these bad things that come to you. You shrug your shoulders, and you think, well, okay, people do what people do, and if they make bad karma, well, that's their problem. What can you do? Can teach them some Dhamma maybe, but if you don't want to listen, okay, carry on, and practice more metta. That's what happens. So this is kind of the idea of meditating like the earth, have this broad mind that is deep and profound and beyond the touches and contacts of the world. Meditate like water. For when you meditate like water, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose they were to wash both clean and unclean things in the water, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The water isn't horrified, repelled, or disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like water. For when you meditate like water, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. So similar kind of idea. You can think of the water as a large amount of water like the ocean, and your profound mind like the ocean is profound and deep in the same way. Or you can maybe think of this in a different way, that water is just this accepting thing. You just accept things. It forgives, it lets go, it doesn't hold on to anything like the human mind. The water is the water is not touched by the dirty things in the world. So you can develop these ideas in slightly different ways depending on your kind of proclivity or how you feel like it. But similar to the previous one, similar kind of idea. So whatever works best for you. Okay, meditate like fire. For when you meditate like fire, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose a fire were to burn both clean and unclean things, like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The fire isn't horrified, repelled, and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like fire. For when you meditate like fire, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. I wonder if Rahula was like an imaginative person. He's someone who was good at using his imagination to kind of do his meditation practice, because these are like imaginative exercises. Sometimes we think that meditation is all about seeing reality, dealing with real things, but actually it isn't. Sometimes it's also imagination exercises. Like the 4 elements we just did before, that is really an exercise in imagination, seeing your body in this way, seeing it how it interacts with the rest of the earth. It's an imagination. It's a kind of grounded imagination. It's very close to reality, but you have to use your imagination to do it properly. Same thing with the 31 parts of the body. It's imagination. You can't see these things directly, and so is this. The fire just burns things happily. Yeah, the fire, the fire, the fire burns things, and it's not concerned about that. Yeah, it's the same kind of, it's an imagination about being like fire, having the same kind of equanimity, just accepting things as they come. Yeah. So equanimity is an important part of this. In fact, if in the suttas they talk about upekkha as being that middle ground where you have a degree of sense restraint. Yeah, you're not affected by the pleasant and unpleasant feelings. That actually is the lower kind of equanimity, and only the higher equanimity is where you do the Brahma Viharas all the way here. Meditate like the wind. For when you meditate like the wind, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Suppose the wind were to blow on both clean and unclean things like feces, urine, spit, pus, and blood. The wind isn't horrified or repelled and disgusted because of this. In the same way, meditate like the wind. For when you meditate like the wind, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. You're just like the wind blowing in the trees. Everything is like the wind. The wind is not concerned, no need to be concerned either. On a tangential kind of note, not exactly what this is, but similar in a certain way, I often like to think of people as the wind. Yeah, other people, the wind just happens in life. The wind just kind of blows around, and you never get angry with the wind, right? What's the point of getting angry with the wind, even if the wind is howling a little bit and it's very noisy? You don't get upset by the wind. You don't get upset by natural phenomena. Usually, you might get a bit irritated, but you don't get really angry with natural phenomena. Go away, evil wind. No one says that, right? Because it's just a stupid thing to say. But the point, of course, is that people are really like the wind. Yeah, people are natural phenomena. They come and go because of cause and conditions. And so, when you think about people like the wind, how can you get angry and upset with people? Yeah, just like you can't get angry with the wind in a way. And this is a consequence of the whole idea of non-self, of anatta, this way of thinking about the world and thinking about people. So be like the wind. Wind. Meditate like space. For when you meditate like space, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Just as space is not established anywhere, in the same way, meditate like space. For when you meditate like space, pleasant and unpleasant contacts will not occupy your mind. Space is not established anywhere, right? Nothing can you can't do anything on space. You can't paint on space. There's another simile in the sutta I was talking about before. If you give someone kind of like a paint set, and a brush, and they say, well, make a picture on space. And they will think you're crazy. How can I make a picture on space? It's impossible. It is not established anywhere. So nothing holds on to space. You can't make things appear on empty space because it's just empty space. In the same way, the mind is developed in a similar way to that. It has this space. It's large and broad. Nothing sticks to that mind. That mind is non-clinging. It's the Teflon mind. Teflon mind is kind of a nice idea. Things just rub off. It doesn't stick anywhere. It's a nice little perception you can use also in your meditation practice. You can think of your mind as the Teflon mind. You just sit, things arise, and they pass away. Nothing sticks in the mind. If nothing sticks, you won't think about anything. The reason why you think is because things stick. But if you just allow things to come and go, then there is no stickiness in the mind. There's like a flow of things going with the flow instead. This is the idea of being the passenger on the train. The passenger just observing things coming and going, not holding on to anything, not allowing things to be attractive or repulsive. Why do we hold on to things? Because we like them or dislike them usually. If we don't dislike or like it, if it's not pleasant or unpleasant, it won't occupy the mind. That's what we're talking about here, not occupying the mind. So, there you are. That is to meditate in these ways. Yeah, it's a little bit abstract. This is not something you find very often in the suttas. You find it here, maybe one other place. So it's a bit unusual, but it shows you how you can use imagination in your practice. Yeah, a little bit. And this is kind of the idea here. All right, let's carry on a little bit more before we do some questions. Meditate on love, meditate on metta. For when you meditate on metta, any ill will be given up. Yeah, so do metta meditation, is what he says here to Rahula. And the idea here is that when you do the metta meditation fully, absolutely take it all the way to its conclusion, then it is impossible to have ill will. Can't get angry anymore. Yeah, even if you try to get angry, you can't. No need to try, of course, but even if very powerful bad things happen, it's impossible for you to get angry with people. You just look at them quizzically. Why are you behaving so strangely? Yeah, it's not a good idea to behave like that. So meditate on metta. So do some metta meditation. I really recommend that. It's very, very, very helpful on the path. Very helpful to purify your sila. It's very helpful to make the mind peaceful and still. Yeah, it's very helpful to have this kind of non-clingy mind where the unpleasant and pleasant contacts don't stick anymore. You become more mindful. People start to like you. I don't know if you want to be liked, but if you want to be liked, helpful. It's nice to be liked at least a little bit, yeah? It's good to have a few friends anyway. So do a bit more metta meditation. When you feel that there's too many friends, then you can do a bit of ill will meditation afterwards. No, please don't do that. Because even if you have too many friends, then what you do then is that you build a little kuti in Australia, in Perth, in the forest, and you go to this little kuti in the forest and you hide away from all those friends that you have. This is kind of the idea. Because when you have a lot of metta and your meditation is going well and your samadhi is going well, you can deal with the forest easily. You will enjoy going to the forest. The hantu is not going to bother you anymore. Yeah. The hantu will come to you and say, "Oh, so nice to be with you." Yeah, and they will also hang out with you, and you will send your love to the hantu, and then the hantu, bang, they get reborn in good locations because of that. This is what happens. More hantu comes, and then they also get reborn in good places. It's just all positive. Yeah, it's all very positive. So how can you do more metta meditation? And it's quite, in many ways, you can do it very simply. Yeah, the Buddha doesn't really specify exactly how you can do it, except that you have a sense of metta. Metta is goodwill. Metta is friendliness. Metta is a sign. Love is a nice way of translating it. But you're spreading that sense of goodwill to all beings. Yeah, wishing all beings well. Seeing the good qualities. Seeing everyone as your friend. And then wishing them well. That's really what it comes down to. And the way it is traditionally described comes from the Visuddhimagga. The Visuddhimagga is where it is explained in detail. And there they usually start with something like, "May I be well and happy." Yeah? And they use that as a kind of mantra. And that can be nice. Yeah? Because sometimes we need to look after ourselves. We need to care for ourselves. And if you look after yourself, well, at least you have one person in the world who looks after you. Yeah? Not sure if anyone else will look after you, that's uncertain, but at least you will look after yourself. And that sense of taking care of oneself is nice, yeah, it feels good. And so you can try that, and I would recommend trying it because it's a good, natural, positive development of the mind. But some people find it unnatural. They find it hard they find it kind of, I don't know, doesn't really work to kind of say it to themselves. And if you don't say it to yourself, you can say it to other people. You can say it to someone you respect. I would recommend saying it not to someone you know too well. If you know someone too well, then it can be, there's too much knowledge about that person, and it can be hard to have that friendliness. You will see the negative sides and all of these kind of things. Someone who is a bit distant to you, someone who maybe you respect highly for the spiritual qualities. Yeah, maybe even someone from the suttas. Yeah, like one of the great nuns among us from the past. Yeah, you can wish them well. Yeah, you can. Or, whatever. Another way of doing it is to kind of bypass the idea of individuals altogether and just do it to all beings. like a mantra. May all beings be well. Yeah, and then that is kind of a large meditation which involves the whole world. You don't have to even think about anything in particular. You can just keep your attention in the middle of your body or something like that. And just this thing, this thought, this perception, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy, is all that you do. Yeah, you say it and you wait a short while. You say it again, you wait a short while. It doesn't matter how long you wait. It's up to you. You can kind of experiment a little bit with that. Some people just say it as a mantra all the time. But then you have to mean it. You really have to wish all beings, may all beings be well. And why shouldn't we wish that? Why shouldn't we want everyone in the world to be happy? Yeah, there's no good reason why not to. Whoops. My leg is not well, so I'm going to... So we wish all beings well, and you mean that, and you allow it to come from within in a deep kind of way, and then when you do that, then it generates something inside of you, a nice feeling, a nice perception, etc. Or you can do it, as it says in the suttas, which is more like to the four directions. You can go to the one direction and another direction, and you can wish all the beings in those directions well. And you can do it to the devas if that is meaningful for you. I don't know, there's something about the devas that is very powerful. Because the devas are beings that have developed these qualities. As you can see, like these luminous beings, full of good qualities. Why have they been reborn as devas? Well, because they have lots of generosity and kindness and metta and compassion, etc. You can do it to animals. That is a bit more like compassion, which is the next one, because animals obviously have more suffering. But again, you can do that as well. You can kind of bring these things together. You don't have to separate metta and compassion completely, because they have a lot of overlap between them. And so you can kind of allow them to come together as well. You can do it to the Sangha, if you imagine kind of the Buddhist monks and nuns, So, you can do that. All of these people who are practicing around the world in various places, may they all be well and happy. You can do it to your fellow Buddhists in the Buddhist Fellowship. That's a very nice thing to do, because when you have metta for each other, it creates for a very nice and harmonious community, and you can work together more easily. I asked Eiling before, I asked her, when people, when you want to get people to do something, do they listen to you? Do they do what you say? And she said, or do they take it admonishment well, do this, do that? And she said, sometimes they do, sometimes not. So that was interesting. So I thought, okay, so maybe, more metta than the smooths the relationships within the Buddhist Fellowship, So this is another way of doing it. So all of these ways are acceptable, but keep it simple. Do one thing at a time. And when you keep it simple, you do one thing at a time, then chances are, you will start to feel these positive feelings. This is very powerful. This is not, by the way, sometimes people think that this is just for women, but it's not. This is a beautiful thing to do for anyone, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't make any difference. It's a way of thinking about people. So it's very beautiful in that sense. So anyway, that is the metta meditation. So he's really giving a lot of advice to Rahula. Maybe the reason why he's doing metta here is because, as I said before, when you do the four elements, it is nice to balance it out with the Brahma Viharas, because the four elements, they kind of make the body, your relationship to the body kind of disappears, and so you need to have another sense of self, and that other sense of self happens through meditation practice and through the metta practice or the samadhi and that kind of thing. And so it gives you something else to hold on to. You give up some things, but you still need to hold on to something, at least until you become a stream enter, until you become an arya. So there you are. So these are the various kinds of ways of doing things. So let's do a little bit of Q&A, because I don't know how you're feeling, but it's easy to feel a bit kind of tired after the meal. I hope you didn't eat too much, because if you do then... I can have some more. Look at this. Have you seen this one? Enormous. I had one of these just the other day. It was so large, I kind of could barely hold it. But let's see what happens this time.
Questions?
Thank you, Ajahn, for your talk. When you're talking about meditating like the earth and the water and the wind, and I was thinking, you know, what happens if your mind imagine something like the tsunami or the floods? Then how do you switch back your mind to make it calmer?
Okay, so so I think the idea is to keep it fairly simple there. Yeah, so you think about water as something which doesn't complain, and then you kind of equate yourself with that water, or you equate yourself with the large earth. I think it's important not to make it too complicated. Yeah, and a tsunami may get very complicated. A lot of things are happening with tsunami. You know, you have I don't know what's happening here. So, but the thing here is also that these are not necessarily meant to make your mind super duper peaceful. These are meant to make your mind more cool, right? So you are like water. You use that reflection to cool the mind down, and then when the mind is cool, afterwards, then you can maybe go to the breath and calm yourself down. So these meditations have different purposes. They do different things. So you think, okay, let me think of myself as a tsunami, okay, or you be like the tsunami, and you see what happens. The tsunami kind of washes everything away, but doesn't really complain. The water comes and goes. Maybe the tsunami is a little bit. It's also very destructive, and it has so many negative consequences. It may not be the best way to go about this because of all the negative consequences. So maybe it's a bit too violent, a kind of idea of thinking about things. So maybe something cool like a pond, a clean pond, flat water, something like that might be better. And even if you kind of do something dirty in that pond, it's going to be okay afterwards. In the same way, you're like this pond, this Lake Placid. I remember when I was back in my early 20s, there was the Winter Olympics in Lake Placid in New York State in the US. It's a nice name, Lake Placid. Lake Placid placid means like flat, no surface motions, completely flat. So you think of this lake. You have them here in Singapore as well, right? You can go to some of the lakes, you can see them sometimes, they're really flat and nice. So I would think that might be a better way of going about it. Yeah. Good.
Hello, Ajahn.
Hi.
Earlier this morning, the sutta, there was one phrase that says the interior earth element and the exterior earth element are just the earth element. So when we die, our interior earth element goes back to the exterior earth element. So it sounds like recycling. so is the Buddha saying we are recycled beings?
Yeah, exactly. It is like recycling. But it's one of the things that it's kind of a continuous recycling, because we eat and then we build up and then we shed things all the time. And so it's like recycling happening now, right in this moment, the recycling is going on. Bits of skin are falling off, hair is falling off, and then we eat something and then more things fall off, and we're in this kind of continuous kind of recycling all the time. So it's certainly when you die, but I think it's all the time. That makes it even more powerful in a sense, makes it more non-self, if you like. So absolutely, recycling is a nice way. Ajahn Brahm talks about recycling. He says that, Ajahn says that when he dies, he doesn't want us to kind of burn or anything. He wants to put us in the recycling bin, and so then he can kind of get recycled somewhere. That's what he says. So I don't know if anyone is going to dare to do that, put Ajahn Brahm in a recycling bin. It's probably illegal, right? Anyway, it's probably illegal to do that. So we get ourselves in trouble if we do that. So there you are.
Ajahn.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, thank you for your teachings. My question is, how do we actually do the meditation on the 4 elements? Like, because just now the sutta you wrote like about the synovial fluid, like, so are we supposed to visualize? And because there's this part of the sutta that says understanding that this is not mine, this is not myself. Is that supposed to contemplate on that, or is that a byproduct of like the contemplation?
Probably a bit of both, I would say. Yeah. So the way you do this is just a matter of imagination. Yeah. So you do it as you reflect a little bit, like I was saying before. It's not a very complicated thing, and you just remind yourself that this is the way the body is, and that so you don't think about the synovial fluid specifically because you don't even know what that is. It's like, oh, it's really random. So you just think about the body. You can think about it more generally, or if you like, you can think of the specific things. It doesn't really matter, but you can think of your skin coming off. And then just see this kind of whole recycling idea that we were talking about before. Yeah, things are recycled, things are falling off you, you are taking in new things, and it's this kind of continuous exchange between you and the environment. It's like we tend to think that things have boundaries. I am here, the environment is there, they are 2 different things. And one day you realize, actually, there aren't really 2 different things. I am part of this, I'm integrated into this environment. The environment becomes part of me. What is part of me becomes the environment. There's a continuous thing going on. And then that takes away your sense of identity. What is your identity then? Is it the environment also part of you? Or is it maybe that what actually is going on? And so you just use your imagination to see this, and you remind yourself of this. And after a while, it starts to have an effect on your mind. Because they may seem obvious, but initially it's just an intellectual obviousness. One of the things about the Dhamma is to kind of allow it to become much deeper. So it is intellectually obvious, but after a while it feels true as well. And feeling and intellectual are 2 different things. One is in your mind. It's like this, it doesn't really have an effect on how you live your life. But when it feels something, then it has effect on how you live. Because we are driven by feelings. Vedana paccaya tanha. From the condition of feeling comes craving. Craving is the driving, which drives us in the world. So when you feel these things, that's when they become powerful. So you just have to keep on contemplating, and in this way, something like that. Are you happy with that answer? Was it a bit dodgy? You don't look entirely happy, are you? But you're welcome to come back again if you wish.
Maybe I'll try later.
Yeah, try later on. Okay. You are allowed not to be entirely happy, It's okay. Yeah. That's good. Everyone is happy? Yeah. Great. One over here not happy. Yeah.
Hi, Ajahn. I just want to know, can you elaborate more on how we meditate on the metta? Is it we wish our own selves to be happy first, then slowly we expand to other sentient beings, or how do you suggest it?
There isn't, the way that it is explained in the Visuddhimagga, you start with yourself usually. May I be happy, may I be well. And you can do that for the whole meditation. Depends how much time you have. Depends on the circumstances. If you do it at home, probably don't have so much time, so you can just do it to yourself. And maybe also do it to all beings, so it doesn't become completely just about yourself. So 10 minutes yourself, 10 minutes all beings, for something like that. But the usual way that is in the Visuddhimagga is like you have this idea of expanding circles. So the inner part of the circle is just you. And then you have the people who you have most kind of positive feelings towards. Not necessarily people that you, not necessarily family members or that, but someone you respect, someone you have a good feeling for one way or the other. Then it goes to the neutral feelings. Then it goes to your enemies, right? So but the point is that they're not really enemies anymore at this point because you have metta towards them. So maybe some other times you have problems with them, but once you have the metta, they cease being enemies. They're no longer enemies. And one of the things that I think as Buddhists, we shouldn't have enemies. It's kind of crazy to have enemies. Why would we have enemies in the world? So we need to overcome that habit of thinking about people as enemies. Because people are just people. They may not like us, they may do stupid things or whatever, but that's just kind of what people do. They are like that. And regardless, you're never going to be liked by everybody. Always going to be people who don't like you. It's okay. You don't have to be liked by everyone. It's their problem if they don't want to like you. You're a nice person. I can tell, of course you're a nice person, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So people should like you. If they don't like you, it's their problem. Yeah? That's what. So this is how you do it. So you can stick with any one of these through the whole meditation, or you can go through this sequence if you want. But very often you never get to the enemy part because you haven't got enough power in the mind to go that far. But you can do the other ones. So this is how you do it. Stick with one. Make it really simple. May I be happy. May I be happy. You have to mean it. You really have to wish yourself happiness. May I be happy. Yeah, you deserve to be happy. You're living a good life. Yeah? May I be happy. And after a while, you really wish yourself happiness. If it doesn't work, try someone else. If that doesn't work, do all beings. All beings is also very beautiful because there's no face anymore. And as long as there is a face, it makes it difficult, can make it difficult. So all beings is just everyone out there, whether they are kangaroos, cockroaches, hantu, everyone, yeah. So then all being, you don't have to think about the hantu because you may lose your metta if you do that, but whatever, and then you do it this way, yeah. Yes, we have someone over there.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahmali, for your teachings. Wanted to ask, for beginners, what is the biggest mistake one make during meditation?
Okay, so the biggest mistake is one controls too much. It's very hard not to control, really, really hard. And the reason you control is because the mind doesn't stay with the breath. And so you think, I'm going to make the mind stay with the breath. Yeah, that's what happens. And when you do that, it becomes unpleasant. It becomes tight. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like you can relax properly anymore. And then, because of that, meditation is no fun. Meditation is no fun. You wonder, why on earth am I meditating? Yeah, I'm fed up with being a Buddhist. Wow, this is really terrible. That's what happens. Yeah, I know people who stopped meditating because it just was so terrible, the way they felt about it. So instead of controlling things, you need to learn just to sit back and to be with rather than to focus on. That's the idea of being with something. Yeah, being with the breath. It's like when you are in your house, you're with someone you know really well, you're really relaxed with that person, maybe husband and wife or something like that, yeah? You don't need to talk after a while because you know each other so well. You're just being with them. You kind of feel their presence. You don't even need to look at them. You can feel that they are there, and you are kind of with them in that sense. In the same way, you make your breath your husband or wife, yeah? So you are with your breath. You have a kind of nice feeling, yeah? Hopefully a nice feeling to husband and wife, but yeah, so you have a nice feeling, and then you stay with the breath because the feeling is good, because the perception is good. So this is kind of the biggest mistake, and it's quite hard not to do that because we are used to in life to always use the willpower, always used to trying, forcing ourselves onto things. Focus, concentrate, yeah? Okay, concentrate. And then you're really exhausted at the end of the day because you're concentrating so much. And you can't really relax properly. So learning to relax, yeah, that is kind of the trick. So, of course, the problem is that, for many people it means you think a lot and all of these kind of things. Then you need to learn other tricks to overcome the thinking mind, etc. Yeah.
Ajahn, Thanks for your teaching. May I ask you a question about the loving kindness meditation?
Yeah.
Right? You were saying that first we wish ourselves to be well and happy, and then after that you extend it to other beings. So beside reciting the words, wishing them to be happy or wishing yourself to be happy, what do we have to do to ensure that we actually radiate the metta, or we just only repetitive statement just that we make in our mind? I mean, how do we ensure that real metta is...
Right. So what you have to do, it's a very good question, so thank you for that. And this is kind of the trick of the metta meditation, not just saying the words, but actually saying the words in such a way that they give rise to a feeling. So it's a certain way of doing it. And so you have to mean it. This is the most important thing. You really have to intend, may I be happy here. So one way of doing that is to kind of just see yourself in your mind's eye, like a smiling, a happy day, things are well, maybe even remembering some of the good things that you have done, something positive, that gives you a positive feeling about yourself. So you can do that, at least initially, just to get started, so you don't have some kind of negative memory of yourself. But the main point is simply that you really have to mean, may I be happy here, may I be happy. You have to say it quite clearly, with a clear intention in your mind, not just kind of repeat it like some kind of tape recorder, may I be happy, may I be happy. That doesn't really work. And then when that intention becomes real and powerful, that's when it starts to happen. Things actually start to work inside of you. So this is the way. So I think that's pretty much that's the main thing. Shouldn't be too complicated, right? It should be quite simple. All meditation should be simple, and so yes. Anyway, nice to see you again, by the way. Yeah, good. Okay. Okay, let's do some meditation together, just to have a short break. And the idea of the meditation time is also to give you a chance to walk around a little bit, stretch your legs, have a toilet break or whatever. So this is kind of the idea, and then we carry on again at about 2:30 is when we carry on. So, all right. In Buddhism, we talk about metta as a meditation thing, and it is, of course, a meditation thing, and that's part of it, but it is much more than that. And sometimes if we limit it to meditation, we don't get anywhere with the metta. We have to start with a much simpler kind of metta, and the metta we have to start with is how we treat people all the time, how we treat ourselves all the time, treating everyone with kindness, with friendliness, with a sense of understanding and love, even, if you like. This is kind of what we have to start with. So see how much metta you can show people in ordinary life. How much kindness can you do? How much can you say words that goes to people's hearts? Remember the idea of right speech. It's the gentle speech that goes to the heart of people. That's kind of being very friendly. How can you do little things in your life that are friendly towards others? Just little actions, small little things. The tiniest thing is good enough. The idea is to train your mind to lean towards the idea of kindness all the time, how you can do things that actually are positive. And sometimes people say, well, if I'm too kind, then I get taken advantage of. So don't get taken advantage of. If you feel that is the case, then withhold, then have metta from a distance. Don't do it kind of up front or whatever. But in general, when it's people, you can have more metta. And sometimes it can be to random people you don't know. Just someone you meet somewhere, and sometimes just say good morning with a smile or something like that. That can be enough to make a day for somebody else. There are so many opportunities if you start looking for the opportunities to be kind. The opportunities are always there in a sense, and so we need to take those opportunities when they are there, and then start to see the kindness in the world, see the metta in the world. Don't fault find all the time. See the goodness in other people, Yeah, very often we see the faults in ourselves and others. We see the faults in the place where we're in. I'm sure if you look at the new BF Center here, I'm sure you can already find some cracks if you want to look for them. But don't look for the cracks. Look for the marvelous thing of having the center here. Yeah, this is so much better than the previous center. Yeah, this feels fresh, it feels new, it feels it has a really good vibe to it. So you see the goodness in the world, you see the positive in other people. One of the things that always I found so extraordinary with someone like Ajahn Brahmali, that he's incapable of seeing the negative in other people. It's like, sometimes I say, oh yeah, we should be a bit careful because this person is like that. He says, what? I don't know anything about that. Yeah, all I can see is the good qualities in the other person. And that's true. He only sees the good qualities in anyone. It's so nice to be around Ajahn Brahmali because he always sees the good qualities in me as well. Yeah, even though sometimes I do dodgy things. Yeah. He only sees the good. He doesn't see the dodgy stuff. Like, okay, good. Very happy with that. And it's such a beautiful way of living because the reality is that most people have mostly good qualities, right? Especially people who come to a place like this and who have a spiritual practice, they have mostly good qualities. So why do we focus on the negative? Why do we remember the negative in our own lives? Yeah. Remember the good things in your own life. Chuck out the rubbish. That's all the negative kind of memories that you may have. Don't even think about those things. They are irrelevant. People say that, oh, if I don't remember the negative, I will never learn. You will learn much more from remembering the positive. Yeah, build on that instead. Don't remember all those negative things because it's endless. You will never become so perfect that you learn enough anyway. You will just go to your grave still remembering the negative things. That's basically the reality because there's no end to the negative things. So get out of that habit. It's just a bad habit. That's basically what it is. And the metta meditation will help you with that. One of the things I like to do in Perth, because in our monastery we are kind of a long way outside of the city. Those of you who've been there, about an hour's drive outside of the city. And so the night is very dark. Yeah, there's no lights when I go outside of my kuti. No lights at all. It's completely black. I can see some lights down on the plain, maybe a few kilometers away, but that's about it. And then you look up and you look into the sky here. And this is the southern hemisphere. This is Australia. So you see the Milky Way, right? You see the whole Milky Way. So it's really kind of this whole arc in the sky in a sense. So lots and lots of tiny little kind of specks of light in this arc across the sky here. And you recognize some of the big kind of constellations and that sort of thing here. And when you look up into that sky here, what I have been focusing on recently, I am focusing on the idea that this is Brahma's realm. Yeah, the sky is Brahma's realm. Why? Because the greater kind of the expanse of space that you are looking at, the greater are the deities that are kind of covering that or are involved with that. So you have this ordinary deities, they are kind of on earth, and maybe there's like a Singapore deity looks after Singapore, there's a BF deity looks after BF. Forget about the Hantu, it's the deities that are interesting here. So you have the larger and larger areas, and then you have the kind of solar system deities of Brahmas, and then you have like the galactic Brahmas, and they kind of cover the whole galaxy here. And remember what the Brahmas are. The Brahmas are the beings who practice the Brahma Viharas. So these beings that cover the whole galaxy here, they have the highest kind of metta, the highest kind of compassion. When you look into the sky and you see the stars and the planets or whatever it is, you are like seeing the reflection of these Brahmas. That's what you're seeing in the sky here. Instead of the sky being a kind of a scary place because of all the supernovas and the kind of interstellar space or whatever it is, because when you look at it from a physical point of view, it seems very violent and cold or whatever, even though it is kind of beautiful if you just look up. But actually, no, that's the wrong way of thinking about it, because behind all of that is the Brahma qualities, the Brahma which covers the whole galaxy. It's like love and compassion is out there in the world. Look up into the sky next time and develop that perception. It's very beautiful. It changes your sense. The universe is not cold. We are the only little planet with life, and everything else is this lifeless, cold, violent, large universe. No, it's the other way around. We are this little planet, and there's like love and compassion all around us, everywhere. It's a beautiful way of thinking about the universe. It changes your relationship to these things. So see if you can use these perceptions in your life. And as you use these perceptions in this way, how you treat other people, how you live your life, it can change your entire feeling about everything, including yourself, of course. So practice metta very, very broadly. Make this a very important part in your life. Basically, it's about kindness. It's about caring. It's about doing something for the world. Okay. So let's move on. First of all, I'm going to have a bit of metta towards myself. This is kind of a nice excuse, right? Metta. Okay. It's also metta for you because I can speak faster after coffee. Or more anyway. See what. Sorry, I'm very naughty monk. I learned from Ajahn Brahm to be naughty. Yeah, Ajahn Brahm is very naughty. He likes to. So I kind of taken after him. So if I, so I have an excuse. I'm just conditioned by my teacher Ajahn Brahm. Good excuse, right? What can you? So anyway, let's move on to the other meditations here. Meditate on compassion. For when you meditate on compassion, any cruelty will be given up. Yeah, cruelty, or you can say harmfulness, or you can say what I'm looking for? Lack of you care, yeah, for other beings instead of being harmful and being inconsiderate and these kind of things, and so you have compassion for other beings. So meditate on compassion. Yeah, there is a lot of suffering in the world, and when you see that suffering, the right response is to have compassion. This is the difference between the love and the compassion. The love is about basically seeing the good qualities and then wishing them well. Compassion is seeing the suffering and then wishing them well. And between them, they cover all beings. All beings are included between these two. So be a little bit careful with the compassion, because compassion, sometimes because it is a focus on suffering, it is possible to become a bit sad, yeah, seeing all the suffering. So don't focus on the suffering, focus on how you can help alleviate the suffering. Yeah, I want to help out, I want to look after. And the moment you focus on how you can alleviate, may you be well and happy, may you be well and happy is a movement in your mind towards alleviating that suffering. And when you alleviate the suffering in someone else and you want to do that, that's a very beautiful feeling in the mind. Yeah, you help out. It's like seeing someone on the street who is hurt and you go up to them and you do something, you help them out. Yeah, you some of these extraordinary things. I don't know if you saw recently, we had that's kind of a remarkable thing. We had that shooting that was in Sydney recently, and there was this one man who kind of just went after the shooter and kind of grabbed the shooter, right? It's like an act of, would you have done that? It's kind of a heroism, right? It's really, really heroic, and goes after them. And of course, he got shot and all these kind of problems. So he went to hospital. Apparently now he's recovering well. That's the latest I heard. But that's kind of, and I don't think he was coming from anger. He was coming from compassion, right? Driven by this powerful force of wanting to help. And so he tackles the gunman, and he doesn't kill the gunman. He just gets his gun out of his hands or whatever. And that's kind of extraordinary. And sometimes you want to really help other people. That's an extreme example, but you want to do the right thing. Yeah, you walk under the bridge. I was walking under the bridge here the other day, here in just down towards the Bay Area, and there was some people under the bridge who look a bit lonely. Yeah, so I thought, what can I give them? Don't have anything to give. So I said, Merry Christmas to them. What else can you do sometimes? Yeah, so when you see things in the world, you can do some very simple things like just that. And you can lift up other people's spirits by doing some very simple things in life. And sometimes that's very helpful. Most people in the world have much more suffering than we realize. Sometimes we are so focused on our own suffering, that's all we really know. But guaranteed, everyone here has more suffering than they want. Is there anyone here who has less suffering than they want? It's impossible, right? It's almost impossible. You can always... So remember that, and then you have more compassion for people. While they have suffering, they also have good qualities, because these things are not really... these are not these things go together. So... do that, you can bring that into your meditation, and one way of doing that is what I mentioned before. You can kind of bring the animals into your meditation as well, and with animals it's more often compassion than love, because they suffer so much, and so you take that into your meditation as a consequence. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Meditate on rejoicing. This is the mudita. So we have seen metta, karuna, and this is mudita. And I think this is a nice translation, rejoicing. When you meditate on rejoicing, any discontent will be given up. What does it mean to rejoice? What it means is that it just means joy, basically. It means that you are happy that things are going well. It means like, when you do the chaganusati, the recollection of your generosity and your recollection of your virtue, sila nusati, you feel happy, you rejoice in that. Yay, I'm living a good life. Not egocentric, but just a sense of gentle happiness inside, that you are living well. You know that you're living your life well. And so you rejoice in that. Not just do you rejoice in yourself, but of course in other people as well. And this is why this becomes a Brahma Vihara, because you include all beings in this. And you rejoice in the goodness in all beings. So sometimes this is called sympathetic or altruistic joy, but it's not. I don't think that's a good translation, altruistic, because it also includes you as well. If it's altruistic, it sounds like it's joy for everyone else, but it also includes joy for you, and so it is a universal expression of rejoicing in the goodness of beings, yourself included. It's a beautiful way. It's the opposite of jealousy, the opposite of envy. It's also the opposite of discontent, because you are discontent means that you are not really happy with what is going on. But if you rejoice in other people's good qualities, then you will never be discontent as a consequence. So you can use this as a reflection, and then based on that reflection, give rise to the positive feelings, and then from those positive feelings, the meditation then takes hold. So these are nice ideas, even if you just think them occasionally, they are nice. Rejoicing in the goodness of the people around you at the BF or whatever. Then the last one, meditate on equanimity, upekkha. When you meditate on equanimity, any repulsion will be giving up. You will not be repelled by things anymore. And the way that this is explained in the Visuddhimagga, this kind of meditation, is explained as understanding the karmic consequences for beings. Everyone is subject to karma. You do good, you have good consequences. You do bad consequences. And so it's almost as if you're considering the lawfulness of the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe are such that bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. And so you're just observing that. The idea of upekkha is looking upon. Ikshati is to see. Upa is like towards, seeing towards. So you're looking upon. And you're looking upon in like a neutral way. You're just seeing what is going on. You're seeing the law of gravity working in a certain way, like a scientist observing what is going, and then writing the equations of gravity afterwards. And in the same way, you are looking upon beings being reborn and passing away, seeing the laws of karma like a scientist. This is what happens when you do this. Just observing it from a distance, looking upon. And that leads, instead of being involved in the people, being involved emotionally, because all of these other three, you have an emotional involvement. You have metta, you have rejoicing, etc. Now you have no emotional involvement. You're just standing back. You're cool, observing. It doesn't mean you don't care. You care, but you care in a different way. Now you're standing, just observing what is going on instead. And so this is the ideal kind of meditation if you want to gain insight, because you are observing reality of things. So this is quite hard to do, and this is, takes a lot of the other Brahmaviharas first, and when you develop the other Brahmaviharas, then eventually the equanimity emerges out of that. So these things should really be done in sequence. The most important one, the one I spent the most time on, is the metta. And because metta is the most important one, it's the one that is talked about most in the suttas. The Buddha talks about that the most. Again, have a look at the simile of the saw, Majjhima Nikaya 21. It is all about metta, really. And you have the Metta Sutta, you have the benefits of Metta Suttas. And so metta is talked about in a number of places. Karuna is talked about also a fair bit, and then the last two, the equanimity and rejoicing, are found less often, especially as Brahma Viharas, so not so common to be found. So those are the 4 Brahma Viharas in brief for you, and that is how you can develop these things gently. None of these things are very difficult in the sense that the idea behind them are quite straightforward. The difficult part, of course, is having the perseverance and the dedication to really do it. That is always the hardest part in the Dhamma, that dedication to the practice. So now we have seen the 4 elements meditation. We had the idea of being, having a mind like the earth, like water, like air and fire, which is based on both the elements meditation, but moving towards metta, because the idea of having a broad mind like the earth, you're already moving towards metta. So you can see how you're going from the elements towards metta, and then the real metta meditation. You can see the movement of the sutta here. And now, having done all of that, comes a little bit strange, because this is not so obvious that why this happens next. And this is the meditation on ugliness, the asubha kammatthana. Asubha, the non-beauty. Subha is beauty, this is non-beauty. If you ask Ajahn Brahma about the asubha meditation, he will teach you the subha meditation instead. He will refuse to teach you asubha, he will teach you subha. And Ajahn Brahm says, subha much better, it makes you much more happy. So practice subha. Subha means, you see the beauty in other people. It's kind of dangerous. If you see the beauty in other people, it can very easily lead you astray. So you have to see the beauty in the people you're not attracted to. That's kind of very important as well. But Ajahn Brahm doesn't do asubha meditation. His mind is already way too pure. He just do subha meditation instead. I think that's kind of cool, to see the beauty in other people. But anyway, the asubha is as follows, or rather, it's not really explained. It just tells you the what's going on. For when you meditate on ugliness, any desire, will be given up. Any lust will be given up. That's kind of the advantage of that. So all of these things are about giving up certain defilements, building up the good qualities of the mind to make the mind ready for really deep meditation. When all of these things have been fulfilled and developed to a certain degree, only then does the Buddha come back to the only then does the Buddha come back to the breath meditation afterwards. You have kind of lay down, establish certain qualities. The mind is now ready. There is no more kind of defilements in the way. Then you come back to the breath meditation. So all of these things are like preparations. So the Buddha is making a point that breath meditation, if it's going to be done well, has to be based on all of this. That's when it kind of works. And so the idea of ugliness is to overcome any desire for the body. Do it for your own body. That's the right way of doing it. Not for other, but for yourself. Imang evang kaya. Imang evang kaya means this very body. And what you do is you just kind of see it for its 31 parts. Or was it 32 parts? I forget now. Can you help me? How many parts is it? 31? 32? 31? Are you sure? Is that everywhere, or just some places 31, other places 32? So, okay, so you know, So this is This is kind of interesting, right? Because I often ask people this, and for those of you who have heard me before, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. Because most people say 32. And the reason they say 32 is because they don't read the suttas, they read the Visuddhimagga, they read the commentaries, and then there they have 32, because they add the brain as part number 32, Mattalunga, brain. And so that's kind of why. So I find this always fascinating, because it shows you where people get their information from. Not from the suttas, from the commentaries. And you may say, but I never read the commentaries, so how can I get my information from the commentaries? Well, what you do is that you read certain books, and those books are sourced from the commentaries, and then you get the 32, yeah? But you haven't actually seen the suttas. It doesn't matter, of course, it's irrelevant. 31, 32, 33, maybe even 34, yeah? Or 28, yeah, it doesn't matter how many parts. The point is just that you see the body more in a neutral way for what it actually is. Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes all the way to the bottom. It fits really well with the Buddhist idea, yeah? Because it's true, yeah? The skin is really what kind of makes this body look nice, yeah? Without the skin, it loses some of its attraction, if you know what I mean. So this is kind of the idea here. You don't need to go into any more great details. Just need to visualize this, and if you visualize it, straightforward. Yeah, maybe straightforward is the wrong word, but it's not that hard to do. So let's move on to the next one here. Meditate on impermanence. For when you meditate on impermanence, any conceit, I am, will be given up. Yeah, so this is impermanence meditation, and this means seeing the impermanence in everything, but primarily here it's about seeing impermanence in relation to yourself and to your 5 khandhas. You can look at impermanence in a very broad sense in terms of the world outside, in terms of whatever, in terms of other people, like death contemplation, these kind of things. But here it is more related to your own 5 khandhas. So it's a little bit strange that this comes before the meditation on the breath, because this is very profound usually, so usually comes after the meditation on the breath. Nevertheless, here it is before. And this just means that you contemplate the 5 khandhas. Death contemplation is one way of doing this, because when you do death contemplation, you are doing impermanence meditation, and it gives you rid of the conceit, I am, in terms of the body. Yeah, this is one of the advantages. So you can start with the body. If you can get rid of the conceit, I am, for the body, then that at least opens the way to deep meditation. So many of these things, these conceits, they are given up stage-wise, and the body is a great way to start. And then we will see later on, or maybe we might as well talk about it briefly now, because we have a little bit more time. So yeah, then later on, as your meditation on the breath starts to work, then that is where the meditation on impermanence becomes very powerful. Because when you meditate on the breath, when that goes deeper and deeper and deeper, the reason why it goes deeper is because you are letting go of things. Yeah, you see that in the suttas, the meditation is always said to be based on viveka, viveka nisita, viraga nisita, nirodha nisita. Based on viveka, seclusion, based on viraga, which is the fading away, based on nirodha, which is cessation, ripening in letting go, vusagga parinama. Yeah? So it is based on these things. In other words, when things fade away and cease, that is where kind of awakening happens. And that is what you see in meditation. You see things fading away here. Have you noticed that? Things fading away? Body gradually disappears. Thinking mind gradually disappearing. Pain in the body, yay, going away, hooray, fading away, then disappearing. Certain perceptions, your senses kind of fading away and disappearing. After a while, all you have left is your hearing, especially if the body goes. Wow, it's so nice. The senses are kind of gone. You're just inside of yourself, feeling really safe, like this refuge within, allowing the world outside to fade away. This is the idea of refuge in meditation. Yeah, the world fades, and you are within yourself, feeling peaceful, nice, joyful, these kind of things. This is the promise of meditation, the refuge inside. And why is that happening? Because things are fading away. Your will is fading away. It's becoming more and more peaceful. You measure the will by how much movement there is in the mind, how much movement there is in what is going on. When everything is incredibly peaceful, it's because the will is dying down. The will is fading away. Wow. I used to think I was the will. But now the will is fading, and the will eventually is given up. And it's so peaceful. I don't want to have anything to do with the will anymore. Maybe I'm not the will. Much better not to be the will. Much better not to be the doer. Much better not to be the creator. You know, one of the interesting things is that this is kind of nice, we think that in Buddhism we don't have a creator God, right? Instead we have many creators. The creator is the will. That is the creator in Dhamma. So we create the future, we create new lives, we create rebirth through our own sankharas. They are the creators. So whereas in other religions they have only one creator, we have many creators. That's the difference between Buddhism and other religions. One of many differences. Have you thought about that before? Yeah, so many creators. Creating. So stop creating. When you become the non-creator, much better. This is what it means to understand impermanence. The will is gone. You become the non-creator. Non-creator is much better than the creator. Don't tell that to the Christians. So, and so you see the fading away and things, and this is how you understand impermanence. The deeper your meditation is, the more powerful that insight will be, until one day you give up the conceit, I am. The conceit, I am. Isn't that strange? It's a very Buddhist thing, right? Conceit usually means, I am better, you low life, I am better than you. Or negative conceit, I am nothing, all of these other people are so great, they're keeping all the precepts, I can't even keep the simple precepts. Wow, what am I going to do? I am hopeless. This is kind of inferiority complex or whatever. Superiority conceit, inferiority complex. But in Buddhism, it's like even the idea I am is a conceit. This is kind of why Buddhism is kind of unusual. I am the same, or I am. So the I am is a problem, and you give up the whole idea I am. That is the highest happiness. This is the Dhamma for you. It's radical, it's different, goes beyond any ordinary understanding of the world. So now, guess what we are ready for? We are ready for anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. But before we're going to do that, we're going to do some more Q&A, so you are welcome to ask some more questions. We can have a bit of conversation about this, and then we will come back to the last part of the sutta soon enough. Okay, does anyone like to make any comments, any complaints about what I've been saying here? Any disagreements what I've been saying here? Have I made any sense to anyone, or have I just been talking weird stuff? Please, fire away.
Ajahn, good
Please.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Thanks for your teaching. Can you just repeat, you said earlier on the meditations, what is fading away, and can you repeat that again?
Okay.
Thank you.
So what is fading away is actually the 5 khandhas. Because what we want to have insight into is the 5 khandhas. 5 khandhas, body, feeling, perception, the will, and then consciousness. And so these 5 khandhas, when you meditate, they fade away as you meditate. So your feeling of the body gradually disappears as you meditate. In the beginning, you may still feel you're sitting there, you have a perception of the form of your body, all of these things are there. But after sitting for a while, it kind of just gradually disappears. You don't really have a perception of your body anymore. The feelings on your body are no longer there. You're focused on the breath. Everything else is gone. So the body is gradually fading away from your mind, from your perception, until you go into a deep state of samadhi and the mind is completely gone. In fact, it is so gone, you cannot access the body at all anymore. Yeah, you cannot feel the body. You cannot even want to feel the body. Or it's completely gone. So this is what happens in meditation, gradually fading away, fading away. Feelings, same kind of thing. Initially, when you sit down, you have some happy feelings, some painful feelings, some neutral feelings. And as you calm down, the painful feelings gradually disappear. They become less and less and less, until eventually they cease completely. There are no more painful feelings. All you have is the joy and the happiness of the mind that arises because of meditation. Yeah? In fact, after a while, all you have is bliss in your mind. All other feelings are gone. They have faded away and ceased. Fading away means they become less and less and less until eventually they cease. Perceptions, same thing. Yeah? You start off with perceptions of all the senses are operating. After a while, the senses start to shut down. You have less and less perceptions. No perceptions through, well, you're not tasting anything, so no perceptions through the tongue, no perceptions through the smell usually. No, after a while, the body fades away, no perception from the body. You don't see anything because your eyes are closed, no perception through the eyes. And all you have left is maybe a little bit of hearing. Then that also fades away and disappears. Yeah? And after a while, all you have left is the perception of bliss in the mind. Maybe a nimitta, maybe a kind of bright light. All other perceptions have gone. So no perceptions. The will fades away, becomes less and less and less activity in your mind, gradually fading away, until eventually the mind becomes completely still. That means the will has ceased. There is no more will anymore. It has faded away and achieved cessation. Yeah, this is kind of how that works. Consciousness is also in a similar kind of thing. Consciousness of the various senses disappear because the senses themselves disappear. All you have left is the mind consciousness. Then, as you go deeper, the mind consciousness fades away, becomes more and more refined. Until eventually, even consciousness itself can cease. So this is what I mean by fading away and ceasing. It's actually the 5 khandhas that are fading away and ceasing. And what you notice when you do this is that these things are incredibly blissful. This is the happiest thing that can happen. The more stuff fades away, the happier you are. This is kind of the remarkable and amazing thing about this. It's a very powerful and beautiful and attractive process that you cannot help but delighting in this process. Yeah, so people are afraid. Whoa, what if I am is given up? That sounds really scary. No, it's not scary at all. It's the happiest thing that ever happened to you. I am is gone. Yay, no more I am. And you, yeah. Anyway, so there you are.
Ajahn, if through all this experience, does it mean that we are already in jhana state?
Jhana state comes at certain points in this process, but jhana state is a long way in this process. Yes, so you are already going a long way. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ajahn. What we have just learned today, is it similar to analytical meditation, or analytical meditation is completely a different method?
Analytical meditation, is that what it's saying? Analytical meditation? Yeah, yeah. So analytical meditation just means that you use your thinking mind, yeah, to approach the meditation subject. And so in Buddhism, we talk often about vipassana and samatha. And vipassana and samatha, you can use those words, but they're not entirely appropriate. So vipassana means clear seeing, and samatha means calm. Yeah, and so you have both clear seeing and calm. So all meditation leads to clear seeing and calm. So there is one kind of meditation, which is the meditation on the breath, which is a calming kind of meditation. And then there is what you say, which is more like an analytical kind of contemplation, which is more like using your perception. It's called perceptions in the suttas. And so you have the perception of ugliness, the asubha sanya, you have the perception of the elements, which we saw before, and that is more using your mind, like an imaginative way, to understand things properly. So that can be called analytical, if you like. So it depends a bit how people, what they mean by these terms, but I think that is usually what people would mean by analytical meditation. You don't even have to call it meditation, you can just call it development of the mind, or development of perception is a particular way you learn a new way of looking at the world. And that new way of looking at the world is what developing the perceptions are really about. And over time, your way of thinking about things change. You see perception, you see impermanence more in the world. It's like, okay, you are not so surprised anymore if a new war breaks out. Why? Well, because that's what you expect. The Buddha said the world is impermanent. You expect wars to happen anytime. The underlying causes are there. We don't know when those underlying causes are going to come together so powerfully that they erupt into a war. Many people were surprised when the war in Ukraine happened, but probably the underlying cause have been building up over a long time, and then bang, it comes out. And before you know it, a war can happen, you don't know what's going on. Or things like earthquakes and natural disasters, the tensions are building up, and suddenly, bang, the earthquake comes. And so impermanence means that you expect change to happen fast and quickly. You go to the doctor says, sorry, you got cancer. Okay, you kind of expected that too, right? Because you know the impermanence of the body. It may be a difficult thing to hear, but if you are ready for it, you are ready. You don't take it so seriously. And this is kind of the things about so the contemplation of impermanence also gives rise to a sense of urgency, because you know time is often in short supply. Things happen very fast. So, this is analysis, learning to see things in a new way, changing your view of the world, and that changes the whole, everything, how you think about things. And it's kind of interesting, many of these things are so obvious in a way, so obvious that this is the way we should think about the world, and yet it takes someone like the Buddha to come and say, this is the right way to think. Without that, we don't do it. We are so trapped by the ordinary pleasures of life, we can't really see these things for ourselves. Okay.
May I have a follow-up question?
Please follow up, absolutely.
Is it true that analytical meditation is a good way to understand rebirth?
Is it a good way to understand rebirth? It can be. I mean, I would say the way to understand rebirth is more like to read about it. I would recommend reading some stories about kind of rebirth, or some stories about near-death experience, or these kind of things. That can be a powerful way to understand it. Also understand the Buddha's explanation about it and contemplate it. And of course, that contemplation is a kind of analytical meditation. So you contemplate what the Buddha is saying about this, dependent origination and these kind of things. I think there are many things there that can be used for that. But so yes, basically the answer is yes.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Hi, Ajahn.
Hi.
Thank you for your teaching. I just now you mentioned about the meditation is like fading away the five khandhas, like the form, feeling, and all that, right? So, and because I was thinking like, how come we can take this like this is to be so natural, so true, right? Then I was thinking like about what if we have a good deep sleep. So that is like also fading away the form, not say the form, but feeling, perception, even consciousness, right? And then we will feel so blissful also. So is it that we get this feeling because we had experience with a good deep sleep? And what is the difference between the good deep sleep and the
meditation practice? Well, I think one of the most important differences is that if you meditate properly, your mind is incredibly clear and bright, and you can see what is going on really, really clearly. But with meditation, very often, there's a lot of dullness there, and so the clarity about what is going on is not going to be the same. You are kind of fading into sleep, and then when you wake up, you're groggy in the morning. Usually not, maybe sometimes, but usually not kind of clear straight away when you wake up. And so that is, but if your meditation is going well, the mind becomes very, very clear. That's the idea, very powerful. And you can see the ending of things, like, the senses that's coming to a halt becomes very, very, very clear and powerful. And you can see the happiness that comes with that very clearly. So, and I think that clarity is one of the more important things that actually distinguishes the sleep from meditation practice.
But the perception, the feeling, the consciousness are fading away.
There is a degree to which things are fading away, but sometimes it doesn't really fade away quite in the same way, because then you fall asleep, then you start dreaming in your sleep. So it hasn't really faded away. It has kind of a temporary halt. Whereas in the meditation, well, it is gone until you come out of the meditation again. Like really gone. Whereas in sleep, well, you're still, even though you are in sleep, you still see all kind of weird stuff and things going on. So it hasn't faded away quite in the same way. There is a more powerful fading away happening in meditation than in sleep. The will is probably still active when you sleep, going on. And so there's a qualitatively difference in degree there between meditation versus sleep.
As in, like, okay, I know that so you are mentioning the difference between the sleep, right? It's not so perfect, the fading away, and the meditation is more. And the question is like, then when you, but you mentioned that you feel the happiness, you see more clearly in meditation.
Yeah.
So if your feeling is fading away, your consciousness is fading away, how do you feel the happiness?
Certain feelings fade away, right? So the dukkha vedana fades away. Certain happinesses fade away, but other happinesses remain. So you're still conscious enough, you still have enough kind of awareness to know what's happening here. Consciousness fading away is that certain aspects of the consciousness fade away, but the other aspects are still clear. So, for example, when you move through the different jhanas, the piti disappears, the sukha disappears, and you're left with upekkha. And so that happy aspect of consciousness is gone, but the upekkha aspect is still present. So there's a fading away of consciousness, but still enough clarity. Eventually, consciousness is gone completely. And that's kind of strange. So when consciousness goes completely, you come to a certain point, bang, you're gone. And then you emerge on the other side, and bang, you're back again. In the middle, you're completely gone. So you know through inference, you can see fading, 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 gone. Re-rising, more and more powerful. So you know by inference that you were gone, that you had ceased. But you can't know that it was ceased because there's no consciousness. But that's kind of really... This is like very otherworldly now. We are kind of moving into very refined realms.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ajahn.
Good afternoon.
About this fading away, what if we have a problem letting it fade away? Example, like when I meditate, right, I can feel actually like some pain, like bodily pain, aches and all that. And so you have this kind of, fading away is not so easy. So do you have like any tips on how to like let it fade away?
Well, it fades away because your mind becomes really peaceful. That's why it fades away. So you cannot just make it fade away. So usually the way you would do that is that you will stay with the metta object or the breath. And when you focus on that breath, becomes very strong, very narrow, very focused. But not by force, but just naturally, then the pains in the body just disappear by themselves. If the pains in the body are too strong, then they can hinder that peace from arising in the first place. And if that is the case, then I would just recommend to change your posture, different posture. Some people have a lot of pains in the body. I usually recommend them to lie down, meditation, because that is kind of when the body is most comfortable. So find a posture that works for you, and don't force yourself to sit in some bad posture. You don't have to be cross-legged to become enlightened, right? You can become enlightened in different postures. Venerable Ananda became enlightened when he lay down. You know that? You don't know that? Wow, now you know. So, so Venerable Ananda, they were going to do the first council after the Buddha's passing away. And the first council is when they recited the suttas. I don't know, do you know this history? I don't know if you know this history. So after the Buddha passed away, they were going to recite the suttas. And so they got all of these monks together. Yeah, I don't think there were any nuns that kind of a part of this. And they were all arahants. They were all fully enlightened, except for one, Venerable Ananda. And so Venerable Ananda, he says, oh, that's terrible. Everyone is an arahant except for me. I have to also become an arahant. Otherwise, I'm a kind of a taint on the assembly or something like that. And so he practices really hard, and all night he practices, no avail, does not become an arahant. Yeah? So I'm going to give up. And so just as he's about to lie down, just before his head hits the pillow and his feet hit the ground, yeah, just kind of in between, bang, that's when he gets enlightened. So that's kind of get enlightened while you're lying down, right? So this is kind of the idea here. And the reason is because he gives up, right? Sometimes too much striving. The moment you give up and relax, okay, it comes to you. So yeah, anyway, just for your entertainment. So
Good afternoon, Ajahn.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Do we meditate in the breathing? Is it because breathing is the last thing that leaves us when we die in this lifetime? That's why if we have the concentration, correct concentration on the breathing, it will help us to
die well. Yes, that can be helpful, and but I don't think that's the reason why we do the breath meditation, because it's not just about dying. There's more to life than dying. Yeah. The purpose is to achieve progress on the Buddhist path. That's the purpose, right? The purpose is to achieve samatha and vipassana, to achieve calm and kindness and all of these kind of good qualities. That's the real purpose of breath meditation. So the purpose is to go as far as you can, and the further you go on the path, the more ready you also will be when you die. And then you can, an extra bonus, as you say, is that you have the breath when you die, and you can kind of use that to make you peaceful and calm. That's certainly helpful, and it can take you through that process. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is because it leads to awakening. That's the main reason. Yeah.
One more. Can the breathing, anapanasati, help us to reach fifth jhana?
Fifth jhana? Yes. Yes.
Do we still concentrate on the breathing when you reach the upekkha?
No. So the way this works is that you use the breath, and the breath takes you a long way, but there comes a point when the breath disappears. So when you come to the jhanas, even before you come to the jhanas, the breath is basically gone, because you are so focused on the happiness and joy and the bliss and the nimittas and all the most delightful things in the world. You're fed up with the breath at this point. Don't have anything more to do with the breath. The breath is just coarse and bad at that particular point. And so you let go of the breath. And then when you let go of the breath and you move on to the kind of the bright lights of the mind, and you go with the joy and the bliss, that is where the deep jhanas come from. They arise out of that. They don't really arise out of the breath. The breath is a vehicle that can only take you so far. And then you have to step off that vehicle and go to a more refined vehicle. So you go to more and more refined things. You can only take the plane from Perth to Singapore. When I come to the airport, I can't take another plane. I have to go onto the MRT, or usually actually someone picks me up in the car. Have I taken the MRT to the airport? I don't think so. I've never done that. I'm so spoiled. I come to Singapore, people just drive me around everywhere, which is nice. And the last part, I have to walk. Yeah, that's terrible. I have to walk up the stairs, And so this is like a simile for the Dhamma. You do more and more refined things, and those refined things take you to the goal. And so once you enter the jhanas, you can't do anything anymore. At that point, the mind is fixed. And so if you want to go from a more refined jhana to a deeper one, that is done before you enter the jhana. So you make a determination before, I'm going to go into the second jhana, and then you have to have enough momentum so the mind carries you all the way to the second jhana. That's kind of the idea. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So now you just have to do it. Yeah? That's the second one. Great. Okay, please.
Ajahn,
Yeah.
regarding the posture, I attended a meditation retreat in Beijing few years ago.
Okay.
And there are two things that I learned from there. One is about the posture, and they mix the Chinese ancient skills or knowledge into the meditation. So they say by having a posture, cross leg, especially double lotus cross leg, has a better flow of qi.
Okay.
Because the leg is facing up, the palms facing up, and the head is facing up.
Okay.
So it has a better meditation of qi, flow of qi.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Okay.
Second thing is about what would you attain? You can lie down and meditate, you can sit down and meditate.
Yeah.
But if you do a cross-leg meditation, you'll reach the result faster. Just like you want to go to the airport, like what you mentioned just now, you can walk there, you can take a bicycle there, you can take MRT there. So that would be a faster way. Does that make sense?
Does it make sense? I think there is something to be said for the sitting posture as being the best one, and because it's very easy to be dull when you lie down, and walking meditation can be too much movement, not still enough. So I think there is something to be said for sitting posture as maybe the best one. Qi is not really part of Buddhism. We don't talk about qi, you know. This is part more of probably Chinese culture, I think. And so the Buddha never talked about that. And so, is it faster to have lotus posture than non-lotus posture? I don't know. I have my doubts, to be honest. I think for most people it's probably slower with lotus because it's so painful. There's no way you're going to be able to meditate at all because of the pain, right? So I think it's more important. The most important thing I think is to be comfortable, because remember the point of the Dhamma is the middle way. And the middle way is where the body disappears. If you have pain in the body is important. If you have pleasure in the body is important. But where there is neither pleasure or pain, the body is no longer important. And that is where the breath becomes possible to watch. So more important to be comfortable than all of these other things. Okay, yes, there can be a benefit of sitting because you are more alert, but only if you are comfortable. If you're not comfortable, then sit on a chair. Lie down even, because the comfort is actually primary purpose. If you can sit comfortably, great. If you can sit comfortably lotus posture, please sit lotus posture, but not if it is very painful. Then it is counterproductive. So I would say it depends on the situation. Qi, I don't know anything about qi, so I can't answer that question. Maybe there is something like qi. I mean, people say that acupuncture works, right? And acupuncture works on qi, kind of unblocking the channels and these kind of things. And so I'm not dismissing it. I'm not saying it is wrong necessarily, but I'm not entirely sure how it fits with the Dhamma, to be honest. So that's interesting that you were in Beijing and did a meditation course in Beijing. What kind of was that some Mahayana school, or was it what kind of thing?
More Mahayana.
More Mahayana school, right? Okay, that's interesting, isn't it?
Non-monastic.
Non-monastic, yeah. Okay, all right. So that's interesting anyways. I'm happy that people in China are getting into meditation and things. I remember I was in China many years ago. My parents invited me to go to China. They were visiting Australia. This would have been early 2000s maybe. And we went on this tour, this kind of guided tour. We went to Shanghai, went to, what's it called, Huangshan, the Yellow Mountain, Guilin, is that what's it called? Guilin, and so various places around China. And in one place, when we went to Huangshan, there was this lady who was our guide, and she was a meditator. And my parents, they paid for everything, but she didn't talk to my parents at all. She was only interested in me. My parents were not so happy, right? They wanted to have a guide to look after them, because she was a meditator.
You were a monk then?
Yeah, well, I was a monk already then. Yeah, this is only about 20 years ago or something. And and she saw me, and she was a disciple of Ajahn Chah. She read Ajahn Chah books, right, in China. And I thought I didn't expect that to happen when I was there. So I thought that was really cool. And so it's kind of nice that there still is quite a bit of Buddhism in China. And some of them are more like Theravada-leaning Buddhists as well, like this lady who was a disciple of Ajahn Chah. So it's interesting that you did a retreat in Beijing. So
I learned a lot from that session,
great.
from that retreat.
Yeah, great. Good. So...
Good afternoon, Ajahn. I wonder if I can ask a question that is slightly off topic. Because we are, want to get on with our own practice and our own progress. But sometimes we can't help but think about our loved ones, especially when they're very old and very sick with maybe dementia, or maybe they're bedridden and can't speak very much.
Yeah.
And throughout their life, they may not have a very strong spiritual inclination. However, I also understand that at end stage, for some people, they may be able to make quite significant progress even at the end stage for some people. So I'm just wondering whether you have any suggestions. Let's say when we are dealing with family members who are very old, how can we be of help? Maybe in some way to help them, maybe set up, I don't know, probably in the next step of their life, we don't know. Also, the last point is sometimes it can be complicated by some other family members who are Christians also trying to convert them as well. And we don't want to have a difficult family relationship, but it seems like to me that sometimes Christian family members seem to have a stake in that territory and stake themselves. So I'm not sure how to approach this, but I want to be helpful to my loved ones.
Yeah, I think that's really... I think it's actually quite bad. I was recently at a hospital visiting someone who was a Buddhist who was just about to pass away. This was just before my very first day here in Singapore. And he was a Buddhist, but his wife was a Christian. And so she allowed, I guess she didn't have any choice because, he wanted to see me, so I went to hospital. And his wife was trying to convert him, on his deathbed. And it was just so unpleasant. You're on your deathbed, you want to relax, you want to die peacefully, you don't want to have all of this hassle, people hassling you with conversion or whatever. I realized the importance of having a spouse that has the same values that you have. It actually is really important. I say to anyone here who is not married already, find someone with similar values. Don't find someone who is thinking differently, because actually it causes problems in the long run. They don't necessarily have to be a Buddhist, but they have to have roughly a similar way of thinking about life, dying process and everything. And anyway, what I also say is that what if they convert? It is not a real conversion, it's just Mickey Mouse conversion anyway. You convert, okay, I convert, and then you die and you go straight back to being a Buddhist again afterwards. Because it's just Mickey Mouse stuff. It's not real conversion when you do that on your deathbed. And so it's just a waste of time, basically. So make sure you set up things in the right way so that you can actually die in a peaceful way. When it comes to helping them, it depends on their life, what they have done previously in their life, whether they have been meditators or not. If they have been meditators, there's quite a lot you can do. You can give them some guided meditations, you can maybe help them to find the peace and quiet and the room to meditate, to find a comfortable place, a nice room or whatever it might be, and you can help them in that way. If they are not meditators, but they're interested in the Dhamma, you can give them some nice Dhamma talks that they can listen to. Or you can read for them on their deathbed, right? Like you read for your children when they were small. I don't know if you have children, but if you had children, many parents read for the children when they're small. My mom read for me when I was a child. I can still remember some of those stories. So, and you can read Dhamma. So you have graduate, instead of kind of reading Winnie the Pooh, now you read about the Arahants instead, So you have kind of graduated through a long life. That can be a very nice thing to do. Remind them of the Dhamma. Or if they are not really ready to hear the Dhamma, the best thing is often just to be kind to them. Yeah, when you die, what you want to do is you want to bring good memories with you into the future. So the dying process is a happy one. And one way of doing that is to tell the dying person about the good things in their life, the qualities you appreciate in them, the things they may have done for you. Get other people who have positive ideas about them to tell them, actually, we have never said these things to you, because very often we don't say these things to each other during life. But actually, there are so many good things about you. Why didn't I say this before? Okay, here they are. And you cannot talk about those positive qualities. And sometimes that goes to people's heart in a very deep way. They're not used to hearing that. If you can say it in a way that is really honest and sincere and convincing, not superficially, but in a sincere way, it will have a very powerful impact on the person who is dying. I never told you this before, but the way you looked after me when I was in difficulties as a young person, or whatever, was so touching. It helped me to kind of go through this, or when you helped me when I had difficulties in my marriage, or the way that gift you gave me when I was a certain age, it was so meaningful, whatever it is. Or you went for a walk with me, or you said those particular words to me. There's so many little things in life. Or sometimes just the way you smiled to me and the way you were present when I needed someone, or whatever. These little things. Be specific, because the more specific you are, the more sincere and the more real it actually feels for that person. This is how you can help them. So go to the deathbed. Don't cry at the deathbed when they're getting very old. Don't be sad about it, because if they are good people with spiritual qualities, they are likely to go to a good destination anyway. There's nothing too much to be sad about. And so you're encouraging that process to happen in a good way. So these are the things you can do. And even if someone has Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever, don't be too concerned about that, because things will go through. Because it's on the surface, the Alzheimer's might be there, but there may be something deeper inside that hears your kindness or hears your words and goes in on a deeper level instead of going in on the superficial level. So something like that. Do you want to come back on that one? Are you? Anything more you want to say? Are you okay? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so I think I'm going probably too long already. So, maybe we can have a break and we can carry on with questions and answers afterwards. So let's have a quick break until how long, Eiling, here? So according to this one, till 3:50, is that right, Eiling? Where's Eiling here? Not here. Eiling has disappeared. Okay, so it says 5:50, so we'll do it till 5:50 then. Okay. Sorry, 3:50. 3:50. Thank you. Very good. Okay, are you ready for more? Yeah. These are quite long days. We get a lot of things talking about many different things regarding meditation. It's quite nice sutta. Just discussing meditation all day is really quite unusual, so it's good. So now we have done all the kind of preliminary exercises. We have cleared up all the attachments to the body. We have produced some beautiful states of mind that takes away all the defilements like the Brahma Viharas. We have even looked at the impermanence and giving up the idea of I am, which usually actually is very profound. And so now the mind is kind of ready. It's ready for the breath meditation. And it says something about the profundity of breath meditation, that it comes after such a long period. All of these other preliminary meditations have to be kind of done first, and then we can do the breath meditation. So that's kind of fascinating. And we will see in a second why that is the case. So here we are, the breath meditation. The Buddha says, develop mindfulness of breathing. Remember, this is what Rahula was asking about at the very beginning, and only now does it come back to mindfulness of breathing. when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it is very fruitful and beneficial. When the Buddha says it is very fruitful and beneficial, remember the Buddha tends to be understated, like a true English gentleman, they're understated. That's what they were in the old days. These days, Englishmen are no longer understated, but they used to be like the way they were in the Victorian age, 150 years ago. The Buddha is like that. He's understated. If he says very, it means like very, very, very. It's really kind of beneficial. So this means, you can take it that this means you can become an arahant, fully enlightened, based on mindfulness of breathing. That's basically what it means. And how is mindfulness of breathing developed and cultivated to be very fruitful and beneficial? So how do you develop mindfulness of breathing to become an arahant? Anyone wants to become an arahant? Ed, you want to become an arahant? Yeah, okay, Ed is in for this, okay. Who else? Anyone else wants to become? Okay, we have someone over there. Okay, cool. I think everyone probably, or maybe sometimes we don't really know. What does it mean to be an arahant anyway, right? It's kind of a little bit foreign, maybe a bit scary as well. But the Buddha says it is the highest happiness, so it kind of makes sense to want it, right? So let's assume everyone wants to become an arahant. So this is all you have to do. You have to be mindful of your breath, and you become an arahant. It's kind of one of those remarkable things in the world. It's strange, not more people are arahants. Surely everyone is a bit aware of their breath. Maybe there are all kind of arahants lurking around in our society. I don't know. You just need mindfulness, and you need the breath. We all have some degree of mindfulness, but this is what you have to do. It's one of those really strange things. Mindfulness of breathing makes you an arahant. Let's see what happens. It's when a mendicant gone to a wilderness, or to the root of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down cross-legged, sets their body straight, and establishes mindfulness in their presence. Just mindful they breathe in, mindful they breathe out. So this is how it begins. First of all, it begins with a mendicant. So this is a monastic. The Pali word here is a bhikkhu, but of course it includes bhikkhunis, and also it will include lay people to some extent as well. The reason why it says bhikkhus is because the Buddha normally spoke to bhikkhus, and now he's talking to Rahula, so presumably he's talking about a monk because of that. But it doesn't mean that it is just for monks. It can also be done by lay people. But you have to be pretty committed. This is an important point to take away from this. And you will notice, I mentioned before, the basis for practicing deep meditation is it has to be viveka-nissita, viraga-nissita, nirodha-nissita, supported by viveka, by fading away, and by cessation. And here you see the viveka part right here, the idea of being secluded. Viveka means seclusion. Gone to the wilderness, aranya, gone to the root of a tree, rukka mula, or gone to an empty hut, sunyagara. These are the three things. These are the idea here is this idea of seclusion, going away. This is why we go to Bintan Island. We went to Bintan Island, find some seclusion in the Sheraton Hotel. Okay, so it's kind of, I think the idea there is to get a little bit away from your ordinary house, right? That's already helpful a little bit because you get a little bit away. But I admit it, it's not perfect seclusion, I have to admit that. A little bit better is to come to Perth, come to Jana Grove. Many of you have been to Jana Grove already, and that is more seclusion. You have your own room, your own bathroom, you are in the forest, it's just you and the kangaroos and the ticks. That's the downside of seclusion. You have some of these animals that are not entirely friendly. Like ticks are, you can give them metta and they still come and bite you. So that's the problem with the ticks. So yeah, there's degrees of seclusion, and so you do what you can. That's kind of the idea here. Yeah, but meditation, real mindfulness of breathing that leads to real insight and depth happens in seclusion. This is throughout the suttas. It does not happen in the city. That's why all the monastics in the suttas, they lived in the forest. They did not live in the cities or in inhabited areas. And then you sit down cross-legged. Yeah, it doesn't say lotus posture, but it says cross-legged at least. So you are on the right track, right? There's something special about sitting down that makes it powerful. So you sit down cross-legged. You have your body straight because that leads to usually more clarity as long as you don't force it too much. And then you establish mindfulness in front of you or in your presence. And this is the hard part, yeah? Because how do you establish mindfulness in front of you? Well, the way you do that is precisely through all of those earlier exercises. They are what allow mindfulness to be there. Yeah, you are mindful because you have metta. You're mindful because you have done the body contemplation. All of these things help you to abandon the coarser parts of the defilements. And it's the coarser part of the defilements that stop you from being mindful. If you have very strong defilements, your mind is going to be all over the place. It's not going to be present. It's going to be in the past, going to be in the future, going to be off in the fantasy world, yeah, wherever that might be, but definitely not going to be here in the BF center, that's for sure. It could be somewhere else, anywhere but here, right? So it's kind of weird. And if you go to that other place you're fantasizing about, then you're going to think about the BF center there. Is that true? It's a bit like that, right? As long as you don't have to be where you are, that's kind of sometimes the most important thing for people. So you fantasize about the other place. When you go to the other place, you fantasize about being here. Maybe. Life is a bit like that. Anyway, so you use all of these things to establish mindfulness. And then you allow things to become peaceful. Yeah, you don't force it. Mindfulness is a natural phenomenon that arises given the right kind of circumstances. So it's really about that. So allowing yourself to calm down, allowing the energy to arise and all of these kind of things through the right way of applying the mind. Not having an interest in the future, not having an interest in the past. The past is done away with already. Why think about the past? There's nothing there of any interest. Everything about the Dhamma is about moving forward on the spiritual path. Past is irrelevant. Why think about the world? The world is uninteresting. One of the reasons why you do the contemplation of impermanence is to understand that there is nothing of interest in the world. The world is just unreliable, uncertain. It's always going to let you down. You are going to die, other people are going to die, the political situation is going to deteriorate, there's going to be more wars in the world, there's going to be more problems. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it goes bad, but the main thing is the uncertainty. It's incredibly uncertain. And after a while, you give up about that world. Instead of just going round and round in circles, never go anywhere, you stop thinking about it because there is no future in that world. The future is always on the spiritual path. The future in the world is not interesting because the future in the world is going in circles. Circular time. This is kind of one of the inventions in India. Time is circular. You go round and round and round. It's the most depressing idea of time you can possibly have. This is why Christians have a more optimistic idea of time. Yeah, God creates the universe, and then you go kind of to kind of ascend. What is it called when the universe stops and everyone kind of goes to heaven or whatever? Whatever. I don't know this Christian terminology, but you know roughly what it is like, right? There's a sense of going somewhere and the feeling that history has a purpose, history has a certain motion towards a certain goal. And the whole Western psyche is infused with these ideas. And so we're always looking for progress in the world. Sure, we must be going somewhere. Look over the last 200 years, there's less crime. We are more happy. Things are going in the right direction. And when things are going wrong, we desperately look for the signs that things are still going in the right direction. This is Western society of you in a nutshell. So I don't know about Singapore, what kind of society you are. You're kind of a mixture society, maybe. But it's wrong from a Buddhist point of view. It's much worse than that, right? Buddhism is very pessimistic when it comes to ordinary time. It doesn't go in a line. It doesn't start over here and end over there. You go back in the past, there is no first beginning. There was no God who created the world, according to Dhamma. In fact, what the Dhamma says is that you go back before the current universe, there was another one. Before that one, there was another one. There is no first beginning. And to me, that is the only sensible way to think about the world. The idea that there is a first beginning, to me, makes no sense, because then you haven't really explained anything. All you have said, God existed first, but where did that God come from? You might as well say that the universe was there forever. It doesn't explain anything at all. So it is fundamentally problematic. So time just goes back and back. And because it goes back and back, it also potentially carries on in the future without any end point. And so Buddhist idea of time is cyclical, going round and round and round, coming back to the same place you were before, roughly, not exactly the same place, but the same thing. New life, new life, new life, new universe, more living, more of the same. Back on the spiritual path. After 2 billion years, you're back here at the BF, sitting here. Isn't that depressing? That's really depressing, right? And this is the problem. That's why I say the future is not interesting. The future is incredibly boring. Yeah? The future is just, no, I don't want to think about the future. And still people think about the future. Oh, I'm going to have to solve all these problems tomorrow and kind of get my act together. I got these things to do. And you have been solving those problems for how long? How many millions of years? How many universes? And the reason you are still here is because you keep on solving those same problems. And if you keep on solving those problems, you're going to be here next lifetime, still resolving the same problems. So put those problems to one side. That's the answer here. Don't be part of cyclical time. Enter the Buddhist linear time. The Buddhist linear time happens on the spiritual path, because then there is a way out. In meditation, there is an exit. There is a beginning point, which is now, and there is an exit when you reach the end of the path. So Buddhism has a real exit point. But as long as you are part of the samsaric cycle, as long as you think about the future, as long as you feel there are real solutions to worldly problems, you're going to be on that wheel like a hamster. Round and round and round. Do you want to be a hamster? It's not nice, right? Okay, it might be cute to watch the hamster, but if it's a human beings running around, it's not as cute as it is when it is a hamster. Anyway, so this is kind of, I'm getting really sidetracked now about this sutta. But this is kind of the idea, about not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, coming to the present. This is where the solutions are to be found. This is where there is a way forward. And that's how you can establish mindfulness. Then, once you have established that mindfulness, then you start seeing the breath. Just mindful, you breathe in. Mindful, you breathe out. It doesn't say focus on the breath. It just says that you breathe and you are mindful. The breath is part of that awareness because you're mindful. That is what is going on here. Nothing about focusing on the breath. That's what I'm talking about, being with rather than focusing on. Just mindful. Nothing else to do except being mindful. No will is required. It says that elsewhere in the suttas. It is dhammata. It is in accordance with nature that the meditation progresses by itself. If you try to make it happen, you are going against nature and you're going to destroy the meditation. Just mindful, they breathe in. Mindful, they breathe out. This is the beginning of breath meditation. This is what you need to get into place. Time is going fast. So this is the most important part of the whole mindfulness of breathing thing. And then comes the standard way that mindfulness of breathing is explained. Breathing in heavily or breathing in a long breath, either way, they know I am breathing in heavily. When you start out, the breath is a bit heavy and coarse. Breathing out heavily, they know I am breathing out heavily. Then the breath gets more refined as you start to calm down. Breathing in lightly, they know I'm breathing in lightly. Breathing out lightly, they know I'm breathing out lightly. Yeah, this happens by itself. You don't do this, you just know that this is happening. They practice like this. I will breathe in, experiencing the whole breath. I think he has changed this to the whole breath. It used to be the whole body, but now it's the whole breath, which I think is a much better way of translating this. They practice like this. I will breathe out, experiencing the whole breath. They practice like this. I will breathe in, stilling the physical process. They practice like this. I will breathe out, stilling the physical process. Yeah, so you start off by, your breath is quite coarse when you first sit down. It becomes more refined. Then you start experiencing the whole breath because your awareness sharpens up. You become more clear about what is going on, and so you feel the whole breath, yeah, from the beginning to the end, or whatever, in and out. And then, as the process happens further, the breath starts to become more peaceful. This is the stilling of the physical process. The breath is like the last remnant of the physical process. It's really all that you are aware of at this point. Already, it's becoming very peaceful at this point. Everything's calming down, everything becoming still. Almost all you are aware of is the breath. Maybe you can feel occasional pains in the body, but already it's becoming very beautiful. You're stilling the breath, calming down. And even if you can do this much, it's already very enjoyable. But ideally, you want to go further. And it is now the next step where it starts to get really, really interesting. They practice like this. I will breathe in, experiencing rapture. They practice like this. I will breathe out, experiencing rapture. They practice like this. I will breathe in, experiencing bliss. They practice like this. I will breathe out, experiencing bliss. So when the breath calms down, because of the enjoyment of being with the breath, because it is so peaceful, because it's so delightful, rapture often arises just by itself, spontaneously. Yeah, rapture is a powerful sense of joy that can kind of be felt as energies in the body, going up, going down, moving around the body. You start to feel this incredible joy. This is when you really know that you're on the spiritual path. These are real spiritual feelings that usually you don't have in ordinary life. You can have it to some extent in ordinary life, but usually it happens as a result of spiritual practice. This is where the world turns towards spirituality, away from the world. This is called the Niramisa Sukha, the unworldly or the spiritual happiness. The Samisa Sukha is the ordinary physical happiness or the ordinary happiness of the senses. This is the happiness of the spiritual life. It happens around at this particular point. Sometimes you need to help a little bit with this transition from the ordinary breath to the beautiful or the powerful or the blissful breath. And this is why the Buddha often talks about in the suttas about using the recollections to make the practice of meditation more powerful. The recollections are the recollections of sila, of chaga, the recollections of the triple gem and these kind of things. Well, you use that as an encouragement. Or you use, as we have seen now, the Brahma Viharas, also very powerful to give you that foundation of joy and happiness that you then bring with you in the breath meditation, and so the whole thing takes off in the way we're talking about here. Rapture and bliss. Doesn't it sound great? This is what the breath promises you. Rapture and bliss and peace and calm and tranquility. All the things that any reasonable human would want. It's like it's an extraordinary thing, and this comes out of the breath. You have to breathe anyway. You have no choice in the matter. Unless you're going to die, but hopefully not now, so you have to wait with dying. But so you have to breathe anyway. The breath is always with you, and you just have to focus on it or not really focus on it, but be with it in the right way. And the consequences is this. I don't know about you, but when I started reading the suttas and I started to read things like this, and this is like everywhere. Yeah, this is like very common. This sort of way of explaining the Dhamma is very common in the suttas. It was like, wow, this is what the Dhamma is about. You started to see how the Buddha talks about the happiness, the joy of the spiritual path. Such a powerful part of this. We need to talk more about that. Yeah, why don't we talk more about that? Forget about the first noble truth, yeah, dukkha, yeah, okay, put that to one side. Let's go on to the sukha instead, the happiness and the joy. We need to be better marketers as Buddhists. We're not good enough. Are there any marketing professionals here? Okay, you don't have to raise your hand, but I just testing. Because there is so much beautiful things to market. We have the most amazing product in the whole world. Why, and when you go back and you turn on your TV, why do you see commercials for all kind of crazy stuff? This is what we should see commercials for, right? We should see someone meditating and the bliss coming out of them, yeah? And then Buddhist Fellowship on top, yeah? Whatever. This is the best product in the world. Seriously, it is the best product in the world. There's nothing like this. And still, how many people really know about this? Even among Buddhists, we don't know about this. It's kind of, it makes everything else pale by comparison. It is just so profoundly beautiful and powerful and amazing. It's almost hard to believe. Even when you read about it, coming from the Buddha, you can't quite believe it. Once you start experiencing it, that's when it really changes you. Then, they practice like this. I will breathe in, experiencing the mental process. That's even more joy and happiness. This is the citta sankhara. It is defined as perceptions and feelings. I will breathe out, experiencing the mental process. The practice like this, I will breathe in, stilling the mental process. The practice like this, I will breathe out, stilling the mental process. More stilling. Before it was stilling the breath, now it is stilling the mind. Joy and peace, stillness and happiness is what everything in Buddhism revolves around. Again and again and again. And it carries on. Next 4 stages. The practice like this, I will breathe in, experiencing the mind. The practice like this, I will breathe out, experiencing the mind. The mind is that which is largely released from the 5 senses. So now we're moving into the nimitta stages and that sort of thing. They will practice like this. I will breathe in, gladdening the mind, even more happiness. I will breathe out, gladdening the mind. I will breathe in, stilling the mind. I prefer stilling rather than to immersing. I should have changed that, but didn't happen. The practice like this, I will breathe out, stilling the mind. More stilling, more gladdening. The practice like this, I will breathe in, freeing the mind. The practice like this, I will breathe out, freeing the mind. Freeing the mind. The end of this whole process is freedom. The end of this whole process is the entry into deep samadhi, like the jhanas, etc. Yeah, that is the freeing of the mind. First of all, the temporary freeing, which eventually leads to the permanent freeing when you reach the stages of awakening themselves. This is what this process is about. Happiness upon happiness upon happiness. Peace upon peace upon peace. Freedom upon freedom upon freedom. Clarity upon clarity upon clarity. Energy upon energy upon energy. All these good things come together through the process of mindfulness of breathing. It's this extraordinary thing. One of the most remarkable things written probably in the history of humanity. And based on that stillness, based on that peace, come the insights. The practice like this, I will breathe in, observing impermanence. The practice like this, I will breathe out, observing impermanence. The practice like this, I will breathe in, observing fading away. The practice like this, I will breathe out, observing fading away. The practice like this, I will breathe in, observing cessation. The practice like this, I will breathe out, observing cessation. And these were the things we talked about before. You asked the question before about how you observe the fading away and cessation, and this is what you do at this point. You look back upon the process of the mindfulness of breathing, and you see how the 5 khandhas have changed, how they have faded away and ceased one after the other. This is now what you reflect on. Through that reflection, you gain profound insight on the path. And because of that insight, you practice like this. You breathe in, observing, letting go. You practice like this. You breathe out, observing, letting go. Patinissagga anupassi is the Pali for that. And that means the ending of craving and desire, because you're letting go of the whole thing. Mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated in this way, is very fruitful and beneficial. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way, even as the final breath cease, they are known, not unknown. So this means when you die, or if you become an arahant and you are not going to be reborn again, you know every single breath, all the way to the ending. And maybe that's what you were referring to before when you asked that question. So this is this marvelous sutta on to Rahula. We should have spent much more time talking about mindfulness of breathing. Mindfulness of breathing deserves at least 2 or 3 hours to discuss it in detail, because it is such an important part of meditation. But today is a bit more like an overview. But hopefully you still found it interesting here. Let's just finish off the sutta. This is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the Venerable Rahula approved of what the Buddha said. This is usually how the suttas end. They are satisfied. There's only one sutta where they are not satisfied. That's interesting, isn't it? Aha. Okay, next time I come to Singapore, we will do that one. Yeah? So this is how we get you to come back every time I come here. So there you are. So let's do some few more Q&As so we can kind of round things off a little bit, and then we'll do a little bit of meditation towards the very end. So please.
Hi, thank you very much, Ajahn. Sorry, I've lost my voice, but I'll try to speak clearly. Ajahn, I enjoy gardening, and I spend several hours every day doing gardening at home. I find it very therapeutic and very relaxing. On several occasions, I find that, I'm just gardening automatically. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing. I just do it without thinking. And there were moments where I suddenly find that I'm very happy, very peaceful. I don't know whether I have accidentally or unconsciously entered into the state of meditation, or have I been daydreaming, or I have just allowed my mind to wander freely. So can you please help me with this, Ajahn?
Yeah, I think it sounds like you are becoming a nun. That's what it sounds like to me. Because that's what nuns do. Nuns, they enjoy nature, right? They enjoy nature and they live in the monastery. And no, I think nature is a very healing thing, a very, very good thing. So staying in nature, whether it's gardening or whatever, is very positive. My mother was a very, very keen gardener. She had the most beautiful garden imaginable. And so I think that it's a very positive thing to do. It's one of those things that I often like to point out is that when you read some of the suttas and some of the arahants, the way they talk about nature, they praise nature, and they say nature, they are drawn to nature, they'd like to hang out in nature. These are the arahants, yeah? And they say, wow, it's so beautiful, look at the mountain crags and the birds and the nature and the beautiful trees, whatever. And so I think doing gardening, you are definitely leaning in the right direction. So, good. Great, so I think so carry on with that. And if that makes you happy, do it. And then you know what you can do? You can do the gardening, and after the gardening, if you still have some energy, go inside, find a nice chair, do some meditation, see what happens. Right, yeah.
Hello, Ajahn. Thank
Hi.
you for the wonderful teachings today. I just have a question with regards to what we just went through about gladdening the mind.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on, practically speaking, what gladdening the mind means? Because for me, it sounds very abstract, sitting there, breathing in, I'm gladdening the mind, breathing out, I'm gladdening the mind.
Yeah, so this is already at a very advanced stage. So what you want to do, you want to go back to an earlier point where you talk about the arising of rapture and bliss. That's the point where you want to be at. And so because that's the beginning of the happiness, right? And that happens through recollections in the right way. So I mentioned very briefly, I was going quite fast, so it's a bit kind of, probably was a bit of a blur, but part of that is, in the sutras they talk about 6 kinds of recollections. And those recollections are to help to give rise to joy and happiness. That's the purpose of those recollections. And so you recall your generosity, you recall your virtue, you recall the triple gem and these kind of things. And that recollection can give rise to a joy. So you can start before you do any meditation at all with doing those recollections. Yeah, and you think about, actually I'm living well. And then you get a bit of happiness and joy. Then you do the breath, and then the joy arises more easily with the breath as a consequence. This is really what it means, gladdening the mind. Yeah, and this is also why metta is so useful, because metta means that you have an underlying positive feeling that very easily can turn into joy once you start doing the breath. Yeah, this is what it means. The gladdening you had here is much more advanced. You already have a lot of bliss already, but then you want to have even more bliss. Yeah, you're getting really greedy when it comes to bliss. Yeah, you want more and more and more. And so that is how it starts out. Sometimes you don't even have to do things like recollection. Sometimes it just happens by itself. Yeah, you are living well, and then when the breath becomes peaceful, the joy just starts to come. It starts to bubble up within her. Yeah, as a consequence. So this is what it means. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it makes sense, but now you just have to do it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Hi, Ajahn.
Yeah, hi.
So in the sutta, it seems like the person sit down, cross-legged, straight, and then immediately start mindful on the breathing already. But usually, Ajahn, your guided meditation is we relax first, wait for the breath to come. Yeah. So do you suggest like we use a method to relax, wait for the breath to come first, then we start mindful on the in and out?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So if you look at here it is in front of you. Oh, they're taking it away, so I can't. Anyway, so what it says, right? You sit down cross-legged. That's number 1. Then it says set the body straight. Then it says establish mindfulness. All of those things you do before you start watching the breath. So establishing mindfulness is that whole thing about relaxing and kind of allowing things to be, become peaceful and nice. That is establishing mindfulness. And the more you have practiced all of these factors in your life, in your ordinary life, the quicker that establishing a mindfulness will happen when you sit down. Yeah? Sometimes you are very tired and you will fall asleep. That's okay. Allow yourself to fall asleep because you had a long day at work or whatever. But then afterwards, eventually mindfulness gets established in this way.
Okay, and if halfway, let's say mindful on the in and out, and halfway the mind goes away, what is your suggestion to bring it back?
Don't bring it back.
It's like
never bring it
again.
Yeah, just wait for the breath. Your job is to wait, not to do things. If you start bringing things back, it won't be long before it's gone again, because the mind gets fed up being brought back. The mind doesn't like that. When the mind can go to the breath, when it is ready, that is when it's natural and easy. So you have to trick the mind by seeing the happiness in the breath. Yeah, it's like you have to dangle the carrot. Carrot, ding, 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 and then the mind goes after it.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn.
Hi, good afternoon, Ajahn. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
No, okay, on this point about the wilderness and the seclusion, I would think that how it's stated is in the context during the Buddha's time, but in the modern time, the seclusion need not necessarily mean you go away somewhere, you know. Can you still have seclusion within your own home?
You can to some extent, yeah. And what you need to do is you need to have like ideally a particular place where you meditate, yeah, like a particular. Ideally, you have a room, but maybe that's asking for too much. If you don't have an extra room, then as part corner, maybe in one of the rooms that is secluded from the rest of the house, and you build up an atmosphere in that room or in that place. That becomes your meditation corner, in a sense. So you can. But what you will find is that very often, if you go to a place like Jhana Grove or to a monastery or whatever you hang out, it actually changes everything. Most people find it much harder to meditate at home. It's something about the feeling, the psychology, the vibe, everything actually changes. So when you go to a place, come to the meditation hall at Bodhinyana Monastery, it's a very powerful feeling. It's like this feeling of peace that permeates the whole hall. You walk inside, you think, whoa, what happened here? Yeah, this is like different. Very powerful and very beautiful. So many people like to meditate there. So, so you can, to some extent, approximate it at home by doing it in the right way, by meditating at certain times, by creating an atmosphere, maybe lighting a candle when you sit down, bow down to the Buddha, do all of those things that create something positive. You can approximate. But there is still a very important place to be had for going on meditation retreats or staying for a while in a monastery and these kind of things. Yeah. Okay, shall we do a little bit of meditation together, just to kind of chillax a bit towards the end? Let's do that.